Summoned and Exiled to 100 Worlds. Volume 1 by Masquerade Audiobooks. Chapter 1, Thanks but Not Thanks Hero. Hey, Eid, you don't have to come back tomorrow. I had moved to a new base and had been going to a tavern for the past 2 weeks. There, I was suddenly greeted by a man wearing light armor who was acting as a scout. His nose was as red as ever, but the look on his face when he was drunk looked a bit different from usual, and he didn't seem to be enjoying himself. Confused, I asked, what do you mean? It's just what it says. I said we don't need you anymore. No. All of a sudden you said something like that. It's not sudden. We've talked about this many times without you. I mean, this is our consensus. Are you sure about this? I looked around with an inquiring look at my fellow tablemates. But the girl in the neat priest's uniform looked away awkwardly, and the sorceress with the pointy hat sighed in exasperation. You Yuasha-sama? I asked. Yeah. Finally, a young man wearing an expensive armor approached me. He told me this with a bitter look on his face. Hey, Eid, you were definitely a talented person. That's why I invited you to the party, and everyone was so happy to see you. And your work in the first few years was really great, too. You've helped me, you've taught me. There are so many things I can think of now. But, as if to interrupt my words of insistence, he replied in a strong tone. What about you these days? You've been slacking off on the work you've been assigned, and you've been playing around with the time you used to spend doing independent training. While everyone is improving their skills for the tough battle ahead, only you are still the same as when you first joined. I couldn't help but choke up at the painful words of the hero, but no one around me would defend me even if they saw me like that. Well, it was only natural. As I was told earlier, this conclusion must have been reached after many discussions. Ha, so then Hi, yes. Eid, you are expelled from the hero party. His voice was dismissive, as if he was talking to himself and his friends. When I heard this, I turned my head and shouted, Yashi ya. Click, condition met. 10 minutes remaining until return. For some reason, I shouted with joy, Eid, what's going on? Why are you so happy? Have you lost your mind? And the hero and the sorceress called out to me. I excitedly patted both of them on the shoulder. No, I'm sane, okay? It's just that I finally got my wish. Oh, yeah, would you mind taking this before you leave? With that, I reached out into the empty space. Then my hand was sucked into a black hole in the air, and I pulled out a bunch of papers from it onto the table. What is this? What, are you saying that you have dimensional storage? You have a skill like that? Said Hiro, surprised. As the name implied, dimensional storage was a useful skill that allowed you to store large quantities of goods in another space. As far as I knew, there were only 3 people in this world who possessed this skill. And unfortunately, none of the members of the hero party possessed dimensional storage. But this wasn't a normal dimensional storage. It was a banishment skill called Stranger's Box, and its effect was to retain its contents even across worlds. Well, that's enough for now. Why didn't you say so? If you have that kind of skill, there are so many ways to utilize it. Well, first, you should read this. This is an instruction manual, right? The hero muttered as he looked down at the bundle of papers I had given him. That's right. I've been thinking about it. I've put together a list of efficient training methods and ways to acquire new skills based on the information I've gathered from the battles I've been in. So I hope you can use this as a reference for whatever kind of growth you seek in the future. No, there's this magic I'm supposed to be able to learn that has a name I don't know of. In contrast to the sorceress, who was reading my manual with a questioning look on her face, the priestess, who was reading my handwritten manual with a serious expression, raised her small hand and asked me a question. Oh, it can be learned by releasing this and that which are sealed around the world. The conditions, the effects of the magic, and how to use it effectively are all laid out on a separate sheet of paper, which I hope you'll read later. With the banishment skill rainbow glasses, one could see a glimpse of the potential of what powers the person they see would gain in the future, and how much they would be able to achieve. Of course, it would take a lot of effort to make that happen, but if combined with the training plan mentioned above, I believe they would be able to reach their desired future. Yeah. Hey, Eid. What's this all about? While the priestess girl was puzzled, the scout called out to me. When I turned around and looked, I saw the face of an old man slapping the paper in his hand and staring at me with an intense look. What's with this ridiculously elaborate map? It even has hidden passages and traps that I didn't notice. It's like a parting gift. It's only a map of where we went together, but I thought it might be useful. What? What are you talking about? There's no way you can draw a map of a place you've never been. How did you get this? Ah, yes, don't worry about those details. I'm leaving the party now. For your information, the map was created by duplicating what appeared in my brain with the banishment skill, auto-mapping also with the banishment skill, copy and fake. With this skill, I was able to duplicate what I was seeing right now, only it looked exactly the same, but there was nothing wrong with that, since looks were everything when it came to maps. When I first got this, I thought, what am I going to do with it if it only looks the same? But there were plenty of things that could be used normally if they were made to look the same. Yes, very convenient. Sorry. What? What is it, Yuasha-sama? And then, suddenly, Hiro sitting in front of me bowed his head, rubbing his forehead against the table. I had no idea that you were doing all this work without my knowledge. Please forgive my lack of insight. I'm sorry, Ede. This is something you accumulated by yourself without people knowing. I can't believe I denounced you for not realizing such a natural thing. I dropped the ball as well. You've been doing way better of a job than I have, and yet here we are scolding ya. Heck, you're even young enough to pass as my own dang son too. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, the scout also chimed in. No. Please raise your head. I didn't mean to do that. It's just that you've all been so good to me, and I wanted to be of some use to you after I'm gone. You idiot, of course we are retracting that. You guys don't object to that, do you? The sorceress said, with a dumbfounded look on her face at my words. She looked around, and the other three nodded hastily. Of course. Ede, I'm ashamed to ask you again. With us? Oh, I can't come back anymore. Sorry. Yeah, that's right. It's just too convenient to expel you once and then bring you back now. It's not like that, but whoa, the time, well, that's it then. I'm looking forward to seeing you all defeat the Demon Lord. Please do your best. I raised my hand and bade farewell to the sad face of the hero and hurriedly ran out of the tavern. Fortunately, the sun had already gone down, but even so, it would be bad if the thing went off in a place where there were many people. Even though I would never come back, it would be better not to cause any unnecessary commotion. Okay, this is about as good as it gets. After turning a couple of times down a random alleyway, I finally found myself in a dark and empty place. With less than a minute to go, I thought again about what I had left behind. Okay, nothing. 3, 2, 1 world transfer is in effect. A voice that only I could hear said this, and at that moment I finally succeeded in escaping from this world. Chapter 2. I worked hard. I worked super hard. If anything, I worked hard for about 100 years. Passhun, world transmigration complete. It's been a long time since I've been here. Having safely returned to the white world, I walked over to a nearby table. I sat down on a plain white chair that I had no idea what it was made of. It felt nice and fluffy, gently enveloping my buttocks that were used to hard wooden chairs. 1 year this time. It took rather a long time. In front of me stood a freestanding white wall about 2 meters high, with numerous doors attached to it. The wall was short at first, but now I needed to turn my head to see the left and right edges. I've done my best, haven't I? Don't you think so? There were a total of 100 doors lined up. This meant that I had been banished from the hero's party 100 times in 100 different worlds. It was a really stupid number that no one should be proud of. However, it was also a number that was absolutely needed for me to return to my world. You said it yourself. In order for me to return to my original world, I would need to join 100 heroes' party in 100 different worlds and be banished 100 times. Now that I think about it again, it doesn't make sense. If you're asking me to save the world or help the heroes, why do you want me to be banished? Well, even if I asked you, you probably won't answer. God doesn't speak. In fact, after all this time, I had never heard God's voice. I was living a peaceful and ordinary life when I was suddenly summoned to this place, and all I had in front of me was a white book. Yes, of course, it was just a white cover, but that didn't mean it was completely white inside. There were more details about what I needed to do, or, in other words, the conditions I had just described, and the wall in front of me was still small, and there was only one door. If I passed through that door, I would be transported to another world, and then be banished from the hero's party. To be exact, I was returned to this place by achieving the condition you will be banished after you have been a member of the party for more than 6 months, or after you have been recognized as a member of the party by gaining a certain level of trust. Once the door was opened, it could not be opened again, and instead, there would be more doors next to it. But I did pass that mysterious condition. It took me about 100 years, but I did it. Then you could create a little more of a celebratory mood, or something like that, you know. While making such a light remark, I glanced at the figure in the mirror next to the table. What I saw was an ordinary young man, a little over 170 centimeters tall, with short black hair and medium build. Every time I returned to this white world, my body would return to the state of being 20 years old when I was summoned here. In addition to that, the shortest time I spent in the other world was 7 or 8 months. The longest was about 3 years, which meant that I had been repeating my early 20s for about 100 years. It was strange that my body, which normally would have become a wrinkly old man and had a lot of wisdom, had not matured much from what it looked like before. It could be said that my mind was being dragged down by my body, or it could be said that there was no room for growth since I was still treated as a 20-year-old kid by the people around me. Anyway, I've been living a long time, but my mind was still of a young man. So, I never said such enlightened words in such a place. I couldn't think of any auspicious thoughts such as, thanks to you, I was able to grow both physically and mentally. I didn't want to be in the good graces of a god who kidnapped people and forced them to do incomprehensible labor for 100 years. Well, whatever. Anyway, I followed your instructions. Then you'll have to fulfill your promise this time. The crystal ball that sat in the middle of the table with a solemn atmosphere shone brightly, as if in response to my reluctant words. This was a sign that I would be given a skill as a reward for being successfully banished from the other world. Are you still going to give me something? If you can give it to me, I'll take it. I had taken the liberty of naming them banishment skills, and they were basically all super useful. Without them, it would have been much more difficult to infiltrate a hero's party in 100 different worlds, and it could have taken an extra hundreds of years. The first world, before I got all my banishment skills, was like hell. So what is it this time? I shuddered as I remembered, and then I slowly placed my hand on the crystal ball. Then a mysterious divine power flowed into me. What? Well, that's another major skill. I can see a future where it's left to die in storage, though. I didn't think I'd use a one-time skill with a limited number of uses, even if I was driven on the edge. If I were to sort through the stranger box, there must be dozens of magic potions lying around that could cure anything as long as you weren't dead. It was not that some strange power had awakened in me, but because there was nothing else in the world that moved except me. Moreover, even the wind was not blowing, so I could somehow feel when something appeared. Left. The number of doors to new worlds were increasing all the time on the right side. In other words, the further to the left you go, the more likely it was to be able to get to the first world. But if something appeared further more to the left, then, perhaps, is increasing. Next to the door number 1 that I passed through for the first time, door number 0 appeared. It was a door that was never there before, a door that predated the beginning of, in other words, this must be the door that could lead to the world I came from. I can go back. I can go home. Yes, I can return. I can go back to my original world, the one that was unreasonably taken from me 100 years ago. I can go back. I can go home. Hey God. It's been about 100 years since I came here, but is it still 100 years in the original world? If that's the case, I think my family and friends are all dead. The lifespan of a human being was roughly 60 years. Some noblemen who consumed good food could live to 70 or 80. In some worlds, it was possible to extend one's life with magic, but at least there were no powerful people or great wizards in my world, therefore, no one would survive. Well, you know, you're God, so you can adjust things to your liking. Will you not do it? Oh, or are you telling me to use my last skill here? Oh, come on, that would be petty as hell. There was a possibility that I could manage this situation by using the skill I had just been given, but that would be a waste of time, if you ask me. Because the 100 years I lost were 100 years that I dedicated to God or that were taken from me. Giving up my rights in order to make up for it would be like taking all the money I earned from work as a fee, and no matter how good-natured I was, I couldn't easily accept that. Thud. Whoa. When I tried to argue with him, I suddenly heard a noise behind me. I turned around in surprise and looked underneath my feet where the noise had come from. There, on the floor, was a book with a white cover that looked like something I had seen somewhere before. Oh, you mean read this. What's that under the number? When I looked up from the book and looked at the door again, I saw that another number had somehow been added below the world number engraved on it. This is the amount of time that has passed in that world since I left it. That means the door to the original world that was 0. The other number engraved below, it also had a clean line of zeros. No time has passed since. Does that mean I can go back to that moment when I was brought here? Then truly, this was the end. My long journey, through countless worlds, and being banished from the hero's party over and over again would end when I passed through this door. Okay, then now is the time to make a triumphant return to my world. Just as I was about to turn the knob on the door to the original world, an additional book fell from the sky, hitting me squarely in the head. Chapter 3. I am going to do some light sightseeing. I have no regrets. What the hell? Although my body was invincible in the other world due to a large number of banishment skills, in this white world, where all skills were ineffective, I was just a human being. If I get hit in the head by a thick book, it would hurt and I would get teary-eyed. I crouched down, holding my head, and looked down at my feet. There was an additional book that had just fallen on my head. It looked like the same plain white book, but I don't think the contents were the same. You mean I should read? Oh. I picked up the white book and opened the cover. The book itself was a hollowed-out box with a delicately crafted gold key inside. A key. Is that how you use it? It was a box with no name, but there was a text written on the back of the cover. According to it, this was a complete banishment commemoration service. There's got to be another name for it, right? Oh well. So the important thing is, you can use this key to open the door to any world you want. By using this key on the door of that world, you will return there. The key will disappear, and the door to the world will open. Now, revisit your most memorable places and get motivated to return. Yeah, what is this service I don't want? It was like I just wanted to drink some water because I was thirsty, but it came with a mountain of set meals. Do you know, God? An unrequested service mentality was just an imposition, you know? Okay. This condition can be achieved by going to the appropriate world and coming back immediately. So, what do I do? If I wanted to leave right away, I could go through any door. If that's the case, I could just open the one door that's right next to it. The memories that came back to my mind made me stop moving. I had a hard time. The first door, the first world. A mediocre miscellaneous mercenary. A handyman who mainly dealt with the extermination of dangerous magical beasts rather than people. I had finally reached the point where I could be called a full-fledged professional. But of course, my true ability was not that great. The first banishment skill that I received was Accidental Flagmaker, which I received for the shitty reason that I was forcefully summoned from the world I was born into, and I was able to join the party of the hero, but that only gave me a chance. I didn't have any special skills or abilities that would earn the trust of the people, so I struggled to keep up with the hero party for at least 6 months to avoid being kicked out. As a result, we ended up traveling together for a year and a half. Yeah, I did a good job. I didn't know how I was going to get back here after being expelled in the first place, so I took a lot of care to make sure I was expelled in a safe place, just in case. Well, that was ruined by an incident. In the end, I didn't stay in one world longer than that until the end. So what happened after I was gone? I looked at the number engraved below the door number, and it seemed that about 10 years had passed since I was banished from this world. In 10 years, the Demon King would probably have been defeated and the world would be at peace. So, does that mean that the hero is now king? I don't want to meet him. The laughter of a proud hero popped into my head. I thought this was one of those things because it was the first world. But being a prince of the greatest country in the world and a hero at the same time was too much to aim for. Well, it sounded like the heroes were chosen by the gods, so any god that would forcefully summon people would have definitely targeted them. Oh, well, I'm probably stronger than you right now, and even if you're the king, you'll never see me. If I'm going to go through all this trouble, it would be a shame to leave right away. So I'll just do some sightseeing in the capital and then go home. If they sold hero-themed buns or something, I'd buy a few. With such a feeling of lightness, I inserted the key into the door of the one and twisted it until I heard a click. Then the shiny gold key began to fade, and even at a glance, I could see that it had lost its power. I see, it will break if I use it one more time. Now, let's see what the world looks like after 10 years. As I stepped out of the door behind me disappeared, and I was thrown out into a familiar meadow. Remembering my vague memories, I turned around and saw a rather large town behind me. Oh, there it was. I tried to activate all of the banishment skills that I'd been able to use since entering the other world. The first was invisible, which allowed me to create a powerful physical barrier, and the second was Magisoap, which absorbed and nullified attack magic. I think I'll set them to always be active. I reached into the stranger box, took out a well-maintained steel sword, and fastened it to my waist. It was not that I didn't have holy swords and magic swords, but they were designed to be used by the strongest people in the world, so they were not a good match for an outsider like me. In this respect, it was wonderful to see that it was just a sword without any special characteristics. It never stood out as strange because it existed in every world and everyone uses it, and even across the world, that way of looking at things does not change. The irony was that the mere fact that it was a piece of steel made it more reliable. Yeah, I like steel that's been forged properly. No matter how I use it, it always fits perfectly in my hand. Maybe I'll make a few more of these if there's a forge to rent. There were probably 300 of these in the stranger box, but a stockpile was never too much to ask. I could make money quickly now. What is that? I tilted my head and muttered to myself, because the town that I could see from a distance seemed to be in a state of chaos. Oh my God, no way were they attacked by a magical beast. I hurriedly activated my banishment skill, Hermes Dash, and the town that I had seen in the distance quickly approached. When I got there, I found that half of the stone walls covering the town had collapsed, and almost all of the buildings inside had collapsed as well. Wait a minute, wasn't this supposed to be a big town? Then what is this? Judging from the weathering of the broken buildings, it must have been a year or two since the town was destroyed. So the first thing that came to mind was a war between humans. Hey you! And then a voice unexpectedly called out to me. I turned my head to look at him, and an old man in ragged clothes, carrying a large bag on his back, appeared from the shadows of the rubble. What the hell are you doing here? What do you mean? No, it's more like, if you know, tell me. Why is this town destroyed? What are you talking about? It's been 2 years since this town was invaded and destroyed by the Demon Lord's army. The suspicious old man's words made me raise my voice in a dumb way. The Demon Lord's army. Is the Demon Lord still alive? It's not like they're just alive. The Demon Lord's army has been on the rampage for over 10 years now. How remote are you from the countryside to ask such a thing now? All this time, not remnants or anything, but for the past 10 years they are ruling. That meant that the Demon Lord had not been defeated. Then what about the hero? What about the prince, that shitty prince who snubbed me so much? Hey, then there was 10 years ago, what about the hero? What happened to him? Of course he's long dead. It's been 5 years. Dead, Alexis is dead. The brave and princely figure of Alexis, who had been smiling broadly in my memories, shattered with a cracking sound. Then, what happened to the rest of the hero party? Of course they're all dead. Isn't that obvious? The old man's voice sounded confused. The only thing I could do was stand there stunned at the words that could not be misinterpreted in any way. Chapter 4. Momentum, it sometimes transcends ethics. I'm not saying it's allowed. I ignored the old man who was still trying to talk to me and left the place in a staggering way. There was no destination in sight. I just couldn't sit still and kept walking aimlessly through the rubble. Dead, all dead. It was a strange feeling. It was only one of the 100 hero parties I had been a part of. It was only a year and a half out of 100 years of activity. The death of a person who, if I hadn't crossed the world, would have been no more than a friendly shopkeeper. Somehow, that weighed heavily on my mind. Alexis, Gonzo, Tia died. The names and faces of my former comrades, who had been swept away and relegated to the corners of my memory, came flooding back to me in clarity. Alexis's face looking down at me with his soft blonde hair brushed up, Gonzo's face showing off his muscles, and Tia's annoyed face trying to act like a sissy were burned into the back of my eyelids. If I had just forgotten who they were, I wouldn't have felt this way, but I couldn't do that. Ha, ha, ha. What, am I that compassionate? They were the first people to exile me, remember. So why this? For example, if this had been 100 years later and everyone had died of old age, well, Tia was an elf, so she would still be alive, but she would not have felt this way. I'm not sure I'd have felt this way if she had died. The embarrassment was in the distant past. If I had just offered one of my favorite foods at the grave and put my hands on it, I would have thought it was just a matter of reminiscing about the past. And even if I hadn't been expelled from the heroic party, the outcome would still be the same. It would have been a different story if it was the current me. But back then, I was so weak that I could barely carry my luggage when I really tried, so there was no way I could affect the war situation. Then, this was a reality that I should accept. As an outsider who had suddenly returned to the world, the right thing for me to do would be to accept the end of the story without saying a word, express my condolences, and then quickly return to my world. I know that, but whether I could accept was another story. Appear, Akashic Compass. I muttered to myself as I thrust my right hand lightly forward, palm up. Then a cross-shaped metal frame, about the size of 2 clenched fists, appeared on my hand, and a light flickered in the center of the blank in search of the object I needed to find. I am looking for Alexis the hero. As I said these words, a white mist appeared in the empty frame, and Alexis's pompous face appeared on it, but it just fizzled out and disappeared. That meant that the hero Alexis did not exist anywhere in this world. Then where did the hero Alexis die? Biting my lip, I entered a new command. Then, inside the empty metal frame, a place I had never seen before appeared, followed by a cluster of blobs that turned into an arrowhead-like shape, indicating the location of my destination. Gonzo, where did the warrior monk Gonzo die? A slightly different question, but my banishment skill, Akashic Compass, showed the same scene. That would mean they both died there. Then again, so did Tia. Where did Tia die? With the feeling of coughing up blood, I asked a third time. The smile of Tia that suddenly emerged made me feel like crying. The blur disappeared without forming anything. Gone, she's not dead. Where is Tia? I shouted angrily, and my banishment skill pointed in the direction of Tia's location. At that moment, I was running as fast as I could. Taking into account the possibility that Tia was being held captive by the Demon King's army, I didn't forget to activate the Mirage Shift banishment skill. I could only use it once a day, and it was only valid for an hour, but no one would be able to find me while I was using it, and I could slip past people and walls as I pleased. However, it was not a panacea. In this state, I couldn't interfere with anything, and I couldn't slip through things that were rooted in the world with a certain mass, such as the ground or mountains. Well, thanks to that, I won't be falling headfirst to the bottom of the earth, and I could use that property to run on water, but that was not important right now. I ran. Through the trees, the ruins, and everything in my path, I just ran straight to where Tia was. I ran. Faster than a warhorse, faster than a flying dragon. I ran over mountains, rivers, and valleys, and when the effective time of the Mirage Shift was almost up, the needle like an arrowhead finally disappeared from the Akashic Compass. Of course, that didn't mean Tia was dead. It meant that I had reached my destination. Here. After catching my breath, I dispelled Mirage Shift. As soon as I did, the feeling of the wind and the smell of my surroundings came back, and I couldn't help but frown. At any rate, it doesn't look like the situation is as dangerous as it could be. I was in a fierce hurry to run, but what surrounded me was a deep forest, not a fort of the Demon King's army. And the place in front of me was not a cold prison, but a rather run-down but warm wooden hut. In other words, there was no need to rush at all. I mean, if I jumped into someone's house with that kind of momentum, I'd be a suspicious person. That's a problem. Did I get anything suitable? Feeling calm at once, I put my hand into the stranger box and rifled through its contents. I knew I would need at least one souvenir if we were to meet again after 10 years. Tia was fond of sweet fruits, so something like that might be around the corner. What I pulled out of the black hole was a bright yellow citrus fruit. Actually, they were from a different world, but I didn't care about the details. I stuffed about 5 of the citrus fruits into a suitable woven basket and knocked on the door of the house after catching my breath once again. Knock. Knock, knock. Him. I repeatedly knocked on the door, but no one seemed to come out. However, there were definitely signs of human presence in the house, and the fact that the Akashic compass had disappeared here made it certain that it belonged to Tia. Well, but sometimes you just can't get out right away. I could think of many reasons why she couldn't answer the door right away, such as she was working on something she couldn't let go of right away, or she was taking care of something. So I kept knocking patiently, but it was strange that there was no response after about 10 minutes. No, I thought it was pretty stupid of me to stick around for 10 minutes, but I couldn't really leave a note which said, "See you later," in such a remote place, can I? It would be too sad to leave her with just a souvenir after coming all this way, and more than anything, I wanted to at least see her face. "Hey, Tia, are you there?" After giving up on the surprise reunion, I finally called out Tia's name. But still there was no response from inside the house. This is not a good sign, right? I'm afraid of dying alone. Okay, then this is a legitimate action. It must be. After arming myself with theories and good excuses, I gently opened the door. Fortunately or unfortunately, the door was not locked and it opened with a squeak. The room, which showed signs of life, was empty, however. This way. Stepping into someone else's house without permission, I opened the door that I thought would lead to her private room, fully prepared to get down on my knees at the barbaric act. You're sleeping." I couldn't help but shout out at the look on Tia's face, as she slept comfortably in the middle of the day. Chapter 5, Beautiful is the Memory, Not Beautiful is the Reality. Huh, who are you? When I shouted right next to her while she was sleeping, she woke up. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked at me, her eyes gradually widening. Hey, long time no see. Lies, what, am I still asleep? No, I think you're awake. I mean, it's been. Id. Tia jumped up and hugged my neck. But unfortunately, that soft, delusional feeling couldn't be felt due to the effect of the invisible banishment skill that kept deploying. Ah, what a disappointment. I quickly disabled my skill, but that's not the point. Id, why, how? How did you end up, I mean, are you even alive? Calm down, calm down. First of all, get off me. What do you mean I'm alive? Tia asked me with tears in her eyes as I hurriedly pulled myself away from her. Because after you left the party, I didn't hear about you returning anywhere. I thought you were dead. Oh, I see. No, it's okay. I didn't go back to the town right away, you know. It won't look good to be banished from a hero's party, so I changed my name and other things to live secretly. Subtly averting my gaze, I proceeded to tell the false story that I had just made up. In reality, I had just been sent back to the white world, but I couldn't explain that. An unbelievable truth always defeats a trustworthy lie. Oh, I see. Good, I'm really glad. I didn't do anything wrong, but why do I feel so guilty? Is that what this is? Should I spit out a curse word to God for not telling me whether I can tell about the banishment skills or not beforehand? Yeah, here's a souvenir for you. In an attempt to distract Tia from her crying, I held out the woven basket in my hand. Then Tia looked up, picked up the contents, and tilted her head. Are these orange berries? I'm flattered, but we don't have a bath to wash them in this house. A bath? No, these are peeled and ready to eat. You're eating orange berries. It's so sour. It's so sour that it'll make your mouth puckered like this. Then Tia's mouth twitched and her face tensed up. Even though she was much older than me, the expression on her face was just so cute. I wonder if we would be about the same age now. Well, I didn't feel that way at all. That's why we usually wash them in the bath, okay? It makes it smell so good and it makes the skin glow. Are you sure you want to eat? No, this is the one that's not sour. Try it and see if you like it. Well, if you insist, I'll just have a bite. She grabbed a handful of orange berries from the woven basket on the side table, peeled them, and put the contents in her mouth. She then chewed on it fearfully. What? When her face squeezed tightly, I hurriedly removed the peel off a bunch of orange fruit and ate it. Sure, if it got too ripe to the point where seeds formed, it would turn sour, but this should be sweet. What? It's just plain sweet. Foo-foo, yeah, you got fooled. What? Tia chuckled at my puzzled expression. The look of satisfaction on her face was indescribably hateful, but after 100 years as an adult, I would never get angry over something like this. Ha ha ha, Tia, that's a bit immature, don't you think? Even if my temples were quivering, I would not be angry. Even if someone poked me on the cheek, I was not angry. What's the matter with you? Foo-foo, I don't mind this much. I used to play with you like this all the time, didn't I? I think I one-sidedly got being played. Really, I thought I was being cute. What the hell, you're making fun of a naive teenager. How much did I? How much what? No, it's nothing. Tia was, for lack of a better word, a very close woman. I had never had any experience with women at the time, so the repeated and casual contact with them made me inwardly perturbed. But Tia treated me like a little kid, or at best a little brother, and I tried my best to control myself so that I wouldn't misunderstand her. It was a good thing that Alexis, who was very good-looking, was with me, because I was certain that she would never fall in love with me. You haven't changed at all. You're the same woman who got me kicked out of the hero party. That's, I said sarcastically, and Tia's expression instantly clouded over. Oops, I think I'd gone back to being a kid at heart. This wasn't a mature response. No, I'm sorry. It's not that I have a grudge against Tia. It is true that at the time I was a burden for the hero's party, and the cause of the problem was partly my fault. I'm sorry. No. I mean, I'm sorry. It was 10 years ago, and I can't believe I'm bringing it up now. I hurriedly apologized to Tia, who had just changed her face from crying to smiling, and then back to crying again. But Tia stared at me with a sad look in her eyes. Then why did you come? I thought you were here to blame me. Blame you, why? Because I'm the only one who's still alive. I felt a tightening in my chest. The past that had come back too vividly seemed to overshadow the reality even more intensely. I don't blame you. If you say that, then I'm just as guilty as you for irresponsibly straying away from the hero's party. No, it's okay. Anyway, I don't blame Tia, and I don't think I deserve to. I just want to hear the story. What the hell happened to you after I left? How did Yuasha-sama, Alexis died? When I asked her quietly, Tia twisted her face in pain and turned over. No one would want to remember what it was like when their friends died, much less when they were the only ones who survived. But I want to know about it. I'd been a member of the hero's party, even if only for a short time, and I had the right and duty to know about it. But, is it still hard for you? You don't have to talk right now. No, I'll tell you now. If I don't tell you now, I'm sure I'll regret it, but it's a bit of a mess here, so can we go to the other room? I can make some tea, and I'd like to change my clothes. That's right. Since she had woken up earlier, Tia was wearing shiny pink pajamas. The fabric was a little too high quality for this room, but considering Tia's ability as a spirit wielder, it was only natural for her to have this level of taste. I'll be waiting for you in the other room. I'll be there as soon as I change my clothes. When I left the bedroom, I sat down at one of the 4 square tables. After a few moments of waiting, Tia appeared, dressed in her familiar youthful grass-colored traveling outfit. The long hair, which resembled orange berries that we just ate, was not as dazzling as gold and gave a sense of warmth, while the slender body, at 160 centimeters tall, was thinner than before. I think she had gotten thinner than before, but I wasn't stupid enough to ask a woman about her figure. Hello, I'm going to make some tea. Can you wait a little longer? Of course. What are you saying? Foo-foo. Tia laughed a little happily at my exaggerated use of the word of course and chest thumping. Again, in a few moments, a white porcelain tea set was on the table, and the cup was filled with steaming red tea. Is this tea from? Oh, you remember. Great. It was the same tea I had first been served by Tia. I shot a frustrated glance at Tia, who leaned over and patted my head. Tia sat back down, sipped from her cup, and let out a small breath. Well, I'll tell you what happened to us after you disappeared. An old story, with a definite bad ending that benefited no one. Tia's words echoed quietly in the cool air of the room, which was so different from the warmth of her palm. Chapter 6. The Untold Story of After. After you left the party, we immediately tried to find a replacement for you, but that didn't work out. Why? This was the first time I'd ever heard of this. I can't believe I'm saying this, but carrying luggage is a job that can be done by anyone with a minimum of strength and stamina. If it's a party of heroes, I'm sure there will be people who want to work for free, right? You see, you left because we were near the front lines of the battle against the Demon King's army, right? Maybe that's why we had all these people who didn't really want to be baggage handlers, but wanted to battle and show off themselves. Oh, that's... The look on Tia's face reminded me of that moment, and I couldn't help but chuckle as well. I was working with Alexis and the others, but to tell the truth, I was not officially recognized as a member of the hero party. This was because, while Gonzo and Tia were contributing to the battle and sharing the profits, I was a hired hand who was paid a certain amount of money to do the job. So, for example, when everyone was invited to a party of nobles or had an audience with the king, I basically stayed at the inn. I wasn't looking to make a name for myself, and I had no complaints about that, but if someone was capable of fighting on the front lines, they'd use the baggage handler as an opportunity to show what they were capable of, to show that they could do it. It was quite possible that someone may be interested in becoming a member of the hero party, if Alexis and the others wanted to do so. But what we wanted was a baggage handler, so we were troubled by people asserting themselves like that. Sometimes there were people who forced their way into the battle, and after about a month of hiring everyone, Alexis got angry and kicked them out. And after about 4 of them, I couldn't recruit any more here, so I had no choice but to retreat to a larger town and hire a professional porter. What? And that didn't work. Yes, you see, you were so desperate to do things for us. That's why we thought it was normal. One day, when we asked the porter that Alexis had hired about it, he said, "My job is to carry the luggage, not to do chores or take care of others. If you want me to do that, you should hire your own servant or maid." Alexis was so furious that he simply kicked him out. Oh. Right after I joined the party, I did everything I could think of to prevent Alexis and the others from abandoning me. Even after 6 months had passed and the conditions for leaving the world had been met, I didn't know that I would be able to return to the white world in 10 minutes if I was banished. So I worked even harder to make sure I would be banished when Alexis and the others returned to a relatively safe area near the royal capital. And I realized that I had become attached to traveling with everyone. That's why I continued to do everything I could to help everyone until the end. It was not the same as asking a paid professional to do the same thing. There was a fundamental difference between working hard for one's fellow man and providing service to one's employer for a salary. I'm sorry. It's not your fault, it's just that we misunderstood you on our own. But by the time we realized our mistake, there were no more porters who would accept our request. It was painful to hear the rumor that, even though he is a hero, he is still a prince of a great country, and he may be naive and selfish. It's not like it was a total lie. I couldn't just sit in the back forever, and I was wondering what I was going to do when a man came to me and asked me to help him. He said, "I can carry all the baggage and do all the chores, so please let me work with you." It was a good deal for us, so Alexis accepted it, and we worked with him to continue our adventure. But when she had said that much, Tia's expression twisted painfully. The way she bit her thin lips tightly, I couldn't help but have a bad feeling about it. After a long, long time, we finally made it past the border, and there was a grassy plain on the other side of the border. There, as if waiting for us, was a huge army of the Demon King's army. But we were prepared for that. We were well prepared for it, but the porter ran away. They ran away. I couldn't understand the meaning of the words, so I asked back. Because it is, isn't it? How did he escape? You came through the demon world, didn't you? I understood the feeling of being scared by the demon lord's army in front of me and wanting to run away. But there was no way a porter could return alone to a place that a party of heroes had spent a long time traversing. In response to my question, Tia's expression became even more distorted. "Do you know what a transfer crystal is?" "Yeah, you know the ones where you register a location in advance, and when you break it, it moves to that location." "Yes." We had prepared a number of them as a means of escape in case of emergency. But since they trigger on their own when cracked, you don't carry them around during battle, right? That's why we left them all in the hands of the porters who carried them. Yeah, no way, no way. Yeah, that person used the transfer crystal. To be honest, I didn't know what happened when I saw him disappear in a blue light with all the restorative potions and magical tools we had prepared. Well, that's so what happened. As I choked on my words, Tia gave me a withered grimace. What? We couldn't do anything about it. Aside from our weapons and armor, all we had on us were a few emergency healing potions. Even so, we fought desperately, but there was nothing we could do in front of the Demon Lord's army of thousands. We quickly fled to the border of the demon world and fought for a while hiding. But in the end, the demon beasts nesting in the border of the demon world also drove us away, and we had to return to the grassland where we first left. So there we were, ready to die, and I thought I'd finally get some epic spirit magic. And then Alexis said. Tears spilled from Tia's eyes. Her voice trembled along with her clenched little fists, and yet she continued to speak stoutly. Alexis hid only one transfer crystal. Unlike me and Gonzo, Alexis was God's chosen hero and prince, the only one who really can't be replaced, so he wanted to make sure that he was the only one who could escape in case of emergency. But yet, he used it on me. I'm a hero, how can I be so uncool as to abandon my friends and run back? I'm sorry. He shoved the transfer crystal into my hand and smashed it with the hilt of his sword just like that. I didn't have time to say anything, and Alexis' tall, pompous face was laughing. Aye. As she continued to spill out her tears, Tia let out her pent-up emotions. I couldn't even begin to guess what Tia was feeling when she said these words, as she had been with them longer than I had, and had thrown herself into a life and death battle. I could only watch in silence as Tia laid face down on the table and cried like a child. Chapter 7. Even if it's a forced smile, it's much better than a crying face. Are you fine now? Yeah. Sorry, Eid, thank you. Tia sniffed and laughed, her eyes red and swollen. The look on her face was too painful, but still Tia started to tell me the rest of the story. I came out of a secret room in the castle of Notland. The soldiers of the castle seized me when I was distraught, and when I finally calmed down, the king heard what had happened and said with a very scary look on his face. You didn't come back. I'm going to pretend that the hero's party was wiped out when they crossed the demon border. At first, I almost yelled at him for saying such a thing, but when I saw the king's sad face, I lost the will to do so. I see, well, yeah. I can see how that would be a reasonable decision. Alexis's last action was a selfish and wrong choice. If the hero Alexis was still alive, he could have gathered new friends, reunited the hero party, and set out to defeat the Demon King again. However, for the sake of his own pride, Alexis saved Tia. It was a choice that no one with power should ever have to make, as he weighed the future of the world, the lives of his friends, or his own pride, and he chose the latter. But, how in the world could one deny the desire to help others even at the cost of one's own life? I could never ridicule Alexis as a self-centered idiot for making the worst choice as a hero, and acting more like a hero than anyone else at the same time. However, that was because I had worked with Alexis for a while, and the world was different. Alexis made a foolish choice, and Tia was saved in Alexis' place. There were plenty of people who would have slammed Tia with righteousness and justice, saying, "It would have been better if you had died." And above all, Tia herself felt a strong sense of remorse. If he had announced Tia's survival, he would have had to bear the malice of both himself and others, and Tia, whom Alexis had risked his life to protect, might have taken her own life. In that light, the king's decision was very appropriate. Then you live alone in this remote place. Yes, to hide my survival from the world, especially since I'm an elf. 5 or 10 years won't change my appearance at all, so the only thing I could do was to hide myself away in a completely inhospitable place. I couldn't even participate in the 3 expeditions. Expeditions? You don't know. In order to rescue Alexis, the allied nations centered on Nordland sent an army to the demon realm. However, they could not break through once, and on the contrary, the battle with the Demon King's army became worse due to exhaustion of the force. That is not the current situation. Where were you really, that you didn't know even though I knew it? No, well, that's the thing. It's even more remote than this place, or rather, it's really a countryside where you can't get any information. What's that? Foo-foo, haha, I've talked to you for a long time and I'm a little tired. I'm sorry I made you recall your painful story forcefully. That's fine, I wanted to talk to Eid too. I mean, after all this time, how did you get here? There's really only a few people who know where I am, you know. No, actually, I got some kind of magic tool that helps me find people. So I tried to find out about Alexis and the others, but there was no response from the two of them. So, Alexis and the others are really dead after all. Unobserved events could not be confirmed. Tia did not confirm the death of Alexis or Gonzo because she was forcibly transferred while Alexis was still alive. But now I'd come to visit her at her own place, which no one was supposed to know, and I'd told her the compass didn't react. That meant that my actions had confirmed their deaths. Gosh, I feel bad now. It's okay. In fact, I felt rather refreshed. Well, I knew they were both dead at that time. Well, then I guess I'll just have to. Goo. Tia was about to say something, but her words were interrupted by a loud stomach rumble. Instantly, Tia's face turned slightly red up to the tips of her pointed ears. Ha, this is, you see, different, okay? It's just a little mistake. Hey, so, do you want something to eat? You're making it for me. Well, yeah. I've got all kinds of ingredients with me, so as long as it's not too outrageous, I'll be fine. Oh yeah, but you know. What? Don't be shy, okay? No, it's just that I haven't had much of an appetite lately, so I can only eat soups and things like that. What? You just let your stomach growl like that? Eat no baka. Leaning forward lightly, Tia's fingers pinched the tip of my nose. What atrocious violence, but I'm not going to give in to this, okay? What's with the smirk? You've been such a bad boy, Eid. Oh yeah, that stew you made me a few times before. Can you make that for me? Stew, yeah, sure. Yeah. Then please. Yakai, please wait a moment, Ojo-sama. Good luck. Tia smiled happily at me as I stood up from my seat and made a stylish bow. I'm sure she was not calm inside, but it was a good sign that she was behaving cheerfully, even if only in appearance. Well, if that's the case, I'd better get to work. As I walked to the kitchen, I stuck my hand into the stranger's box and fished out the ingredients I had thrown inside. Let's see, if we're talking about a stew, we'll need milk, butter, flour. Hey, Eid. Your hands seem to be disappearing, or is it my imagination? Ha, what are you talking about, Tia? How can a human arm disappear? Of course not. But it's been disappearing and reappearing for a while now, and the ingredients keep popping up. Well, I am cooking, so I need ingredients. Or what? Are you asking me to cook the air? No, I'm not, but that's not the point. Ha. Moo. I started laughing, and I couldn't hear Tia's pouting voice from behind me. That's right, I was now a magician who was dedicated to cooking. I never thought that it would be too much trouble to explain, or that she would forget if I filled her up and gave her a nap. Now, let's take this milk out of the Magi Stalker State Preserver, which had not expired, right? There was a limit to the amount of magic that could be used to preserve the state, and it was time for a complete check. No, ma'am, you don't know how many hundreds of them there are, do you? Jai-Tao-Uwen. Suddenly, I felt a vibration from outside the house, as if a large, heavy object had fallen. A moment later, the sound of a high-pitched animal cry echoed. Jai-Yawu. What the hell? Oh, hey, Tia. I followed Tia out of the house as fast as I could and went outside too. And there she was. Dragon. Jai-Yawu. It was unmistakably the king of demonic beasts, a dragon with a body covered in red scales and a fierce cry. Chapter 8. Not many people who say they're fine are ever really fine. Dragons? It was a race that reigned at the top of all magical beasts. From their strong scales and huge bodies, they possessed overwhelming power and boasted bogus strength, which at the same time allowed them to fly and breathe using their overflowing magical power. The higher species could even understand human language, making them truly literal monsters. There was no glint of intelligence in his eyes, so he was probably a lower-ranking lesser. Wait, why was there a dragon here in the first place? Hey Tia, why are there dragons down here? Aren't these things usually up in the mountains? Dragons, especially the lower species, usually lived at the top of the mountains. It was said that immature dragons were unable to control the heat emitted from their huge bodies, and so they regulated their body temperature by exposing their hard scales to the cold air, which was why they never liked to come to these humid forests. But when Tia turned around, she threw out a different question in an impatient voice instead of the answer that I was looking for. Eid, why did you come out here? Why, of course, when you hear screaming like this. Gyoo. We'll talk later. We have to take care of this guy first. Yeah, that's right. Despite the desperate look on Tia's face, I replied calmly. Sure, dragons were formidable foes, but right now, a lesser dragon wasn't much of a threat to me. I drew my sword from my waist and stepped in front of it as if to protect Tia. Then I'll take this place. The blade of the silver moon that twists and spins the wind is the blade of the green moon. And the feathers of the 6 pairs of spirits in 3 directions are the feathers that harden and drop the dull light. Gather together, surround yourself, and dance. In the name of Lunarsha, manifest the triad stream. Jayao. Thump, before I could utter a nice line, the wind blade created by the spirit magic, chanted by Tia, easily cut off the neck of the extremely thick dragon. Seriously. As I cautiously approached the dragon, which was lying on the ground, spewing blood from its severed flesh, and sending up a cloud of dust, I poked at its severed head with my sword. It is definitely dead. Ha. Whoa, Tia. How much stronger have you gotten since I've been gone? At least in the time I knew Tia, she wasn't strong enough to instantly kill a dragon, no matter how lowly it was. Her breathing seemed to be erratic, but it was rather normal considering her power. Ha. Wow, what a cut, it's so clear. Scary. Can this be prevented by invisible? No, it's magic, so I'd have to use magia soap. I don't think I want to try either at all. Ha. Tia. I was trying to be cheerful, but Tia's breathing didn't settle down for any length of time. I was a little worried and turned around to see that Tia, who had been standing there shakily, was about to collapse. Whoa, are you okay? Tia's body, which I supported, was frighteningly light. Even though many elves were skinny, this one far exceeded that limit. Tia, you. Sorry, Eid, I'm just a little tired. Don't worry, I'll calm down soon. Ha, yeah, I'm fine now. With that, Tia pulled away from me and stood on her own feet. I couldn't take Tia's word for it because her face was still pale. Wait, you don't look okay at all. Moo, it's fine, it's been a while since I've been in a battle, and I was a little overzealous because I was in front of Eid. I don't care if that makes you worry about me, hehe. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I'd really like to help you, but can I go rest in my room for a bit until the food is ready? That's fine. Thanks. I'll be looking forward to Eid's home-cooked meal. As soon as she said that, Tia walked back to the house unsteadily. I couldn't help but be worried about her, but if you ask me what I could do about it, there was nothing in particular. Mo, I don't have a choice. After a bit of pondering and scratching my head, I returned to Tia's house and washed my hands thoroughly before standing in the kitchen. The dragon's corpse was put away in my stranger's box. If I left the corpse of a bleeding magical beast lying around, other magical beasts would gather around like idiots. But what was that all about? I thought back to what had just happened as I cooked. Indeed, Tia's symptoms were very similar to those of someone who had consumed a large amount of magic power in a short period of time. There should be nothing unnatural about it, since she used such a large amount of magic, but something inside me kept telling me that I should not underestimate it. But I don't think I can get it out of her by asking her. Then I have no choice but to get a little serious. With a wicked grin on my face, I started to change the ingredients in the stew. Personally, I liked large pieces of meat and vegetables in my stew, but she said she doesn't have much of an appetite, so I think she'd rather have a thick soup-like stew that's meltingly delicious. The decisive factor was the milk. I put away the regular milk that I had originally planned to use and replaced it with a top-quality one that I got on my tour of other worlds. Phew, I never thought I'd see the day when I'd have to break the seal on this thing. I unanimously rejected the suggestion that I should drink it because it was an ingredient. Oh, and by the way, I had some phoenix meat. If you cut it up into small pieces and cook it well, it won't be too bad for digestion and should give you strength. I don't know if it's really a phoenix, but at least the meat would serve the purpose. I added a good amount of other things that seemed to be good for nourishment, and cooked it thoroughly in a magic pot that could cook dozens of times faster than normal when the lid was closed. I sipped the resulting white stew. Muha! It was delicious, overwhelmingly delicious. The heat that reached my stomach after passing through my throat spread throughout my body, and I could feel it warming up my entire body. It was not a magic potion, however, so it didn't force your body to heal. Magic potions could be dangerous in a very subtle way. There were many cases of weak people, such as newborn children and elderly people, who used powerful recovery medicines, only to find that their bodies couldn't keep up with the effects of the medicines, making them even worse. Unperfect, hey Tia, it's ready. I called out to Tia as I stirred the contents of the pot, but she didn't answer for some reason. Tia, hey Tia. I walked up to the bedroom door and knocked lightly, but there was no response. Is it possible that she got tired and fell asleep? Then I could just let her sleep on it and reheat it when she wakes up. Tia coming in? I couldn't get Tia's dizzy face out of my head, so I said no and opened the bedroom door. There she was, in the middle of changing her clothes, wearing only her underwear. Tia. Kaya id no echi. Tia, noticing my confused expression, turned around and let out a cute scream. But I didn't care about that and stepped into the room. What? Why are you entering my room? Isn't that the part where you say, sorry, and leave? Without answering Tia's words, I slowly approached her, staring at her naked body. Eid. Hey, you look scary, okay? Please get out of the kaya. As I closed in on Tia, I grabbed her wrist and stared at her body even more. I couldn't take my eyes off the shocking sight. Tia. Eid. As if she had given up, Tia turned her face away from me with a sad look in her eyes. I fought back the urge to squeeze my hand and tried to formulate the next words. How the hell did this happen? Her glistening white skin was etched with countless wrinkles and stains, and her bony body showed signs of impending death. About 120 years old, Tia's body, which should still be quite young for an elf, had dried up like an old man just waiting to die. Chapter 9. Responsibility is not something that is forced upon you, it's something you have to fulfill. This is the second time that Eid has seen me naked. Tia's laugh reminded me of the past, but now was not the time to dwell on those memories. Answer me, Tia, what's this all about? All right, I'll explain it to you, but first, can I get changed? Okay. Tia's gaze landed on the fancy pink pajamas she was wearing when I arrived. I picked them up and lifted her arms as gently as I could before starting to dress her up. Eid, I thought I said, wait until I finish changing. That's right, sorry. Foo, that's okay. I couldn't get dressed by myself anyway. Can you just get me dressed and then put me on the bed? Okay. The face of Tia, smiling mischievously, was as young as the day we met. However, that youthfulness remained only till her neck up, and no further than the wrists and ankles, the parts that were usually visible. I wondered why she bothered changing into the clothes she wore when she was still at the hero's party. Perhaps those clothes were the least revealing of her skin. That'll do. Now, if you'll excuse me, princess. I easily picked up Tia and carried her to the bed in a princess carry. Then I laid her down quietly and pulled the covers over her, so she wouldn't get cold. I pulled out a small chair nearby and sat down next to Tia, who was in a strangely good mood, buried up to her neck in the covers. I never thought I'd see the day when Eid would do something like this for me. 10 years goes by so fast for an elf, but 10 years for a human is different. Haha, yeah, I guess so. The average lifespan of an elf was about 300 years. Humans, on the other hand, had a lifespan of about 70 years. The difference in the sense of their time was more than 4 times greater than ours, so there was no way to make up for the difference. So, how did your body become like this? What the hell happened to you? Didn't I just tell you? The porter escaped and we fought like hell. Yeah. When I saw Tia's face sinking after she had regained her smile, I naturally let out a weak voice. And seeing me, Tia, for some reason, brightened up her expression a bit and continued talking. That's when I used the secrets of spirit magic. It is a magic that is only passed down among elves and can only be used by elves. Using it to explosively increase the power of spirit magic, I fought the demon lord's army. So, you're saying that your body paid the price for using it, but that was a long time ago, wasn't it? Really? It's only been about 5 years. No, 5 years is a long time. I mean, you're still suffering from the cost of magic from 5 years ago. It's not that there's anything left. It's just that this is what happens once I pay the price. Tia cut off her words and looked troubled. However, this didn't fool me, as I continued to stare into her eyes, and eventually she let out a small breath as if she had given up and continued to speak. Fu, the price is your lifespan. When one mixes one's life with magic and uses spirit magic, it multiplies its power many times over. It was one of the worst guesses that came to my mind. I managed to stifle my voice that was about to yell at her, and Tia, still smiling, spoke further. Phew, I knew I'd get that look, but I had no choice, you know. If I hadn't done that, I would have been beaten and killed right there. Well, maybe it is, but no, wait a minute. Could it be that the magic that killed the dragon earlier was also? Yes. I used my lifespan to do it. Stop screwing around. This time I couldn't take it anymore and yelled at her. Why? Why did you do that? Because if I hadn't, Ede would have been in danger, you see. Me in danger, of course. In 10 years, you'll probably have gone a little stronger, but there's no way you can beat a dragon. At the sight of Tia's startled face, my entire body relaxed and I slumped back into my chair. Right, you're right. There was no way that I, who was banished from this world, could become strong enough to face a dragon in only a span of 10 years. Did I reduce Tia's lifespan because I was ignorant of such an obvious thing? I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing? I just wanted to help you, so you didn't do anything wrong, okay? No, it's not. Tia tilted her head curiously at my apology, which I squeezed out like I was coughing up blood. But no, that wasn't it. I could have easily defeated a dragon like that. What the hell am I doing? How pathetic do I have to be to give Tia such a hard time when she's in such a bad state? I'm sorry. In case you're wondering, it wasn't the magic that made me this way earlier, okay? It's been like this for a long time. But it's fine, I don't care. Just the fact that you got here in time is enough for me. Just in time. Yes. I got to see Ede again while I was still alive. Tia's hand slowly reached out to my cheek as I trembled, desperately trying to hold back my tears. The feeling of her hand was so gentle, but cold. I can tell. I know it's almost time and I'm going to be with Alexis and the others soon. That, in itself, doesn't scare me. People live and will eventually die. It's a natural part of life. However, there was something that bothered me. If, by any chance, Alexis and the others were alive and still waiting for my help, I couldn't just die quietly and use these pajamas to control the magic around my body to keep me alive all these years. But that's all over now. Thanks to Ede, I know that the place where Alexis and the others are waiting for me is not the Demon King's castle, and I was able to finally talk to you now. I have no more regrets. Don't say that. We've only just met again. Tia's hand gently stroked my hand as I screamed like a selfish child. Foo, I'd love to listen to Ede if he's being selfish, but this is all I've got. Dazun. Interrupting Tia's words, there was another loud noise that came from outside the house. The impact was nothing compared to the previous one, and I rushed to get out. Wait. Tia, what the hell? I'm coming with you. What are you talking about? Tia, you need to stay here and rest. Take me with you. Tia's fingers tugged at the hem of my clothes. I could not shake her fingers, even though they were weak. I don't want to be alone. Okay. With Tia in my arms, I walked out of the house. Then there was a huge metal giant waiting for me, so huge that I had to look up. Oh no, the adamant golem. The adamant was the hardest metal in the world. Its black and purple glow, which made it impenetrable to any attack, had the strength that simply could not be defined as hard and heavy. If such a thing took a distorted human form, it would be able to beat the dragon to death while it was humming. We're not even in the mine, and it's a goddamn natural golem. It's like the dragon from earlier. What the hell is going on? I'm sorry, Ede. It's probably my fault. Tia, who was in my arms, answered, looking apologetic. In order to help me live as long as possible, I've placed magic circles around my house to gather magic power. I think that dragon from earlier was attracted to it and came here. And this golem was born from the influence of it, perhaps. No, that's crazy. If this is the kind of thing that gets attracted, you're not going to live very long. I'm usually fine because I sleep. But today, Ede came over and I have been up all day. Oh, so you were saying this was my fault too. I understand, yes. I'm sorry, Ede. I'm sorry I got you into this mess. I would have used up everything I had left just to get you out of here. No, you don't have to. Tia looked like she was about to cry, and I laughed lightly before lowering her body to the ground. That's right, if it was my fault, then I should take the blame. I had the power to do so now. Watch this, Tia. This is the power I've acquired since I left the hero's party. Now come on, scrap iron. I'll banish you from this world with my own hands. The golem just silently swung its huge fist down at me as I smiled fearlessly. Chapter 10. I don't shout out technique names, but I believe I'm allowed to at least say a few words. A downward fist from an overwhelmingly huge body that was taller than the ceiling of Tia's house. If I took such a thing head-on, even if I were a hero, I would be flattened in one blow. What's the matter, Scrap Iron? Is this only what you've got? No matter how hard it swung its fist, he couldn't put a scratch on my body. A heavy blow that doesn't even contain a soul would be like a breeze in front of my invisible banishment skill. However, the weight difference between me and the adamant golem was several hundred to several thousand times. It was too ridiculous to compare. Even if the attack didn't connect, under normal circumstances, the impact alone would have blown me beyond the horizon. But it didn't happen. After taking dozens of fists to show off the skill, I used a new banishment skill here. Is it time? Then it's payback. I moved inside the gap between its fists and jumped and kicked the golem in the stomach. Then, with a roar, the huge body of the golem staggered and fell to the ground. This was the Orbit Reflector, a banishment skill. This was a counter skill that accumulated the damage you took and returned it directly to your opponent. If this was activated, even the impact itself could be nullified as before, so it could be used for defense. Kyuwuwo. Oh, I knew you'd rise. The golem, which was supposed to be down with its head up to the sky, stood up, making the distinctive sound of metal scraping against metal. It must have been a considerable impact, but there was only a small dent on its body that could not be seen unless you looked closely. I've always been a fan of hitting hard guys, but I guess my strength isn't enough. Well, I knew that. I kicked him to the ground because I needed a little time. I put my hand into the stranger's box and pulled out the hilt of my silvery white sword. Yes, just the hilt. This sword had no blade. It will be made now. Here we go, buddy. Blood Sword Rensu. I held my left hand at face level with my fist clenched tightly, and slammed the hilt of the sword in my right hand against my left wrist. The tip of the hilt pierced my wrist, and my blood was sucked up into the hilt. Then, I held my sword up again, and a bright red blade extended from the hilt. Kyuwuwo. Oops, did I keep you waiting? It looks like you're all set, so let's get this over with. The adamant golem, fully on its feet, punched me again. What, you were one of those idiots. Well, if something were to be inserted poorly, the density would decrease and the strength would decrease. I think it was one thing to be all about punching, but it was another thing to be able to use. Exhaling a short, strong breath, I dodged the golem's fist once more and stepped into its path. He anticipated it and this time threw a kick, but it was too late. Without shouting out the name of my special move, I silently swing my sword down. The momentum of the swing blew away the sheath of the bloody blade, and all that remained was an invisible blade. The blade was thin above all. It was too fragile to withstand even a gentle breeze, and even if left alone, it would destroy itself in the blink of an eye. However, its thinness enabled it to cut through everything. It could pierce the connection between things and cut through any physical object. The Sword of Thin Life, created by the effects of the engineering master-smith banishment skill, and the sword techniques I developed during my long journey through other worlds. If the two were to be combined, Zuzuzuzu, nothing is unbreakable. I watched as the huge body of the golem, which had been split off into two, crumbled to the ground as I took a quick swing with the Sword of Thin Life before returning it to the stranger's box. In addition, there was no point in swinging the hilt because the blade shattered as soon as it sliced through the golem. It's okay, it's cool. Phew, we're done, Tia. Tia. I called out again to Tia, who was looking at me with a dumbfounded expression. Her eyes widened and she finally answered me. Eid was so strong. Well, yeah, I'll tell you something. I wasn't always strong when I was with Tia, you know. After I was expelled from the hero party, I trained again and became stronger. I see. Hey, Eid. What? If you're so strong, then maybe you'll be able to know it's nothing. No, that's what I'm most worried about. What's that? It's tough even for me to defeat a demon lord, you know. I'd been to over 100 different worlds, but I'd never faced a demon lord before. Well, it was only natural considering that I was kicked out of the party in the middle of every episode. The foundation of my strength was my banishment skills, and the power that God gave me. If they were blocked, I was just a piece of shit, so as long as I couldn't deny the possibility that the Demon Lord had such abilities. If I were to be too arrogant to believe that I could win, I would easily be caught unprepared. However, if it was the Demon Lord who was messing with Tia, I would have no objection to getting a little fired up and punch him in the face. I want you to take me across the border. Yeah. I want to go to the place where I last left Alexis and the others. I want to end up there. Don't say last. Foo, that's weird. Why do you look like you're about to cry? I don't know either. I retorted to Tia, who laughed. Oh yeah, I didn't know anything. I didn't know, but I couldn't stop crying. So, what do you think? Of course, if you can't do it, you can turn it down, and even if you do, I can't offer much in the way of compensation. Oh, how about these pajamas I'm wearing? I'm sure they'll fetch a decent price if you sell them. I don't need that. No, I don't. I really don't want it. If the effect I just felt was true, then surely the pajamas Tia was wearing were worth a lot of money. But I didn't know what to do with my friends, a woman freshly removed pajamas. But carrying it around in a stranger's box was a possibility, and if you asked me to throw it away, that would not be possible. I already had more than I could imagine, okay? Yeah, I definitely didn't want it. Boo, that's mean. Then no. Tia stared at me with moist, lustrous eyes. Mo, it's hard to say no to this, unlike the determined look in your eyes just now. Finny. After a long hesitation and a long sigh, I finally broke down. I might not be able to extend your life, but I could make your wishes come true. So, the choice was already made from the beginning. But you have to absolutely listen to me, okay? Also, if I don't think you can do it, I'll turn around halfway through, okay? Yay, thanks, Eid. Tia said with a smile, like a flower blooming. But she didn't stand up and jump on me anymore. I desperately tried to look away from this fact, picturing in my mind what I would need for the journey and comparing it to the contents of the stranger's box. Thus, the last journey of Tia and I began in a rush, not even waiting for the night to pass. Chapter 11, and so the journey ends and the world closes quietly. Wow, that was easy. Thank you for that. I carried Tia on my back as I ran through a magical area infested with vicious magical beasts. Although it was crazy to move through the demonic area at night, the greatest threat to me now was not the magical beasts that I could deal with, but the flow of time that would not allow me to even stop. Ah, Eid over there. Oh, elves had excellent night vision. Looking from Tia's point of view, who was strapped to my backpack, I could see countless eyes glittering between the dark trees, and I immediately changed course. That would be true. In a world full of magical beasts, there was no point in fighting every single one of them. If the path was blocked by force, I would take care of it, but if it was not, it was obvious that it would take less time and effort to avoid it. It was a strange feeling. The last time I came here, this place was a place to hide and breathe under crushing pressure at night. I never thought I'd be able to run through it with such confidence. Phew, well, that's where I've got you. I could not use the Mirage shift because it had not been a day yet, but to begin with, it only worked on me, so I could not use it with Tia on my back. Or rather, if I did, Tia would fall to the ground and stare at me with tears in her eyes as she rubbed her bottom. However, if I used the Hermes dash to move fast, I could leave most demonic beasts behind, and even if I moved erratically, I wouldn't lose track of my destination with the Akashic compass. Therefore, we were boldly running through the area infested with magical beasts. No, isn't it too damn far? I mean, isn't it too big? Of course it's big. If it was so easy to get through, the kingdom's army would have already invaded the Demon Lord's castle. That's true, but the demon territory was 10 times bigger than I thought it would be. Certainly, if we were to try to get through here normally, a large amount of supplies would be essential. Besides, if we were to get out of here, even the porters would have had a hard time. She probably traveled with Alexis and the others for a longer period of time than I did, gaining their trust and supporting each other as they made their way through this demonic realm. Even with that much experience, could people truly trust each other? I didn't have an answer to that question, as I had always been forced to abandon and be abandoned. Speaking of which, what happened to that porter that got away? I don't know, maybe he got caught. I see, yeah, I guess so. The king of Nordland, a great nation, knew the truth, so there was no way he could have missed the person who had abandoned his son, a hero. He was probably captured in secret, and it would be pointless to think about what happened to him after that. Oh, I think we are nearly there. The roots of the trees are starting to look different. Are you sure? I had no idea if it was the density of the trees, or if it was the protrusion of the roots. I kept running, thinking that if Tia said it, then it must be true, and eventually the growing sensation of the trees opened up so much that even I could see it. After more than 10 hours of running through the night, with several breaks in between, the trees finally disappeared from sight, and what we saw was a vast grassland. It should be right here, Tia. Put me down here. Yeah. After I lowered her from my backpack, Tia stood straight on her feet and walked unsteadily through the meadow. She looked around to make sure, and eventually approached a nearby rock that was as high as her waist. Here, this is where Alexis gave me the transfer crystal. Then, yeah, I'm back, guys, I'm finally back. She sat down on the ground, her voice trembling as she slumped against the rock. Now she had finally arrived at the place where she had been forced to leave her friends behind. Alexis, Gonzo, do you know? Eid, the one we kicked out, is the one who brought me here, you know? Eid has become incredibly strong. Ifufu. As Tia leaned her back against a rock, she looked up at the sky. As I looked up, I saw a red light beginning to rise from the base of the twinkling stars. Hey, Eid, do you remember? Remember when we banished you? Of course I remember. I'll remember that, after all the accusations. At Tia's words, I chuckled and shrugged my shoulders. The reason why I was kicked out of the Brave party was because I peeked at her while she was changing clothes. But of course, I didn't do it on purpose. I was called by Tia to go to the tent, and there Tia was changing her clothes. Tia screamed out loud in panic and forcefully complained to Alexis, I can't be with someone who peeks at me while I was changing my clothes. And as a result, I was expelled from the heroes' party. At that time, I kept thinking. I thought that if the enemy got stronger and the fighting got harder, we wouldn't be able to protect you anymore. That's why I kicked you out. I deliberately let you peek at me and complain to Alexis, because I knew that if I didn't, you would die. I see, well, that's true. I was really weak at the time. In fact, in the latter half of the trip, I felt my life was in danger countless times, and I thought to myself that I was just lucky to have survived until I was banished. But it was a mistake. Eid is strong enough now that he doesn't need me to protect him. No, that's not. No, it's not. My strength was due to the banishment skills I received with each world I was banished from, and the time I was given to train for 100 years, while always remaining in a young body. There was no way that I could have continued my journey without being banished and still be on par with what I was now. Eid. What? Thank you. Thanks to you, we were all able to get together again, and I am sorry. I guess I have to leave you behind again, along with everyone else. I thank you for carrying me, my soul, so far. You were truly the best porter I've ever had. With one last small smile, Tia's eyelids slowly fall. When her eyes closed in contrast to the rising sun, that was the true end of my adventure in this world. The story of the end that I was never supposed to know after I was banished. Now, there was nothing more I could do. Now that I had fulfilled my duty to my former comrades, all I had to do was to use the key to return to the white world and from there to my own world, where I belonged. What kind of face should I make when I see them again after 100 years? From their point of view, it would probably be a few hours at most, so they would probably give me a strange look. It was easy to make money now. Do I give my parents a house or a farm? A glass of good wine for the idiot Taruho would be enough. Maybe I should send some jewels along with a bouquet of flowers to the receptionist, Ashia-chan, who used to be the flower of the higher class. Yeah, I know. If I returned home now, I could do anything. I could slay all the strong magical beasts I want, I could become a nobleman, I could even start a country. Anything, anything. Hey God, is this part of your calculation? Sure, I'll get in. I'll dance in the palm of your hand until there's a hole in it. As I touched Tia's still warm hand, I raised my fist to the sky. And so I used the last banishment skill I got after being banished from 100 worlds. It allowed me to make a direct appeal to the gods and make any wish come true, depending on my mood. Take it all, unlimited. A pillar of light rose from my raised right fist. It broke through the clouds, transcended the world, and carried my wish through to God. At that moment, my consciousness sank into total darkness. Chapter 12. The 101st Prologue. In front of my eyes, a completely white world suddenly unfolded. There was no way I could have recognized the scene, and I hurriedly looked around, revealing my stupefied expression. What is this place? When I looked to my right and left, all I saw was a blanket of white. I mean, even the top and bottom were white. If I couldn't see the sky, does that mean I was inside some kind of building? Am I trapped? Kidnapped? Why me? How? Wait. First, let's calm down and assess the situation. Just a moment ago, I was exterminating a clawed mole. The extermination of vermin from the fields was an important job for the miscellaneous mercenaries, and I stepped into the forest to smash the nest of the claw mole. Yash, it turns out I don't know what the hell is going on here. In the countless forests I entered, there was no way there could be a facility like this, and I had no idea who could do something like this, or who would want to do something like this to me. If I had to guess, I'd say it's God's plan. I wanted to snicker and say, gee, I'm an idiot, but I doubt that would be the most appropriate thing to do. Are you looking at me? If so, I would be very grateful if you could give me some minimum guidelines on how to proceed here. The place was empty, but I tried to talk to him anyway, just in case he was watching me. Not that I don't resent the unreasonableness of the situation. I wouldn't want to have to fight with someone who could do this for the next 100 years or so. Thud. Oh, what is this? Suddenly, I heard a sound behind me. I turned around, trembling and shaking, to find a white table with a white book on it. What is this white background? Honestly, it was hard to see, or rather, it hurt my eyes a little. Well, I guess that means I should read it. I picked up the book and opened it. Fortunately, the words were properly written in black ink inside the white book. As I read through it, it seemed that I had been expelled from my original world. And to return to the original world, I need to travel to 100 different worlds, join the hero party of each world, and then be expelled. Yes, it was crazy to say the least. You're crazy to say the least. What the hell were you thinking? I was so astonished and dismayed that I could even express my thoughts in words. But Nanika, I'd call him God for convenience, who heard my question but didn't say anything. But it seemed that he didn't respond to me in any way. A wall appeared in front of me, seeping out of the white landscape, and there was a door with a plate that said 1 on it. By the way, when I went behind the wall, there was no door, just a wall. Apparently, there was no back entrance. I don't know what's going on, but I guess I'll just have to go there. Well, before that, as I was about to put my hand on the knob of the door, I turned my attention to the crystal ball that had somehow appeared on the table while I was reading. According to the book, if I touched this, I would get some kind of nice skill. Come on, you know I'm just a small-time mercenary, right? I don't have the ability to join any kind of hero party, so you're going to make up for it here, right? Oh. As I placed my hand on the crystal ball with anxiety, a mysterious heat flowed into me. At the same time, what entered my mind was about the flag maker ability and its effects. Just having it will trigger it automatically. Will I be more likely to get into trouble, whether it be good or bad? Is this how I'm supposed to enter the hero's party? Yeah, can it be something as simple as a power that made me strong enough to be invited into the hero's party? What's with this twisted ability? Well, it would be just like a true god to ignore people's will and bring them to a place like this. Another one? Gosh. Another wave of heat flowed into me. But the intensity was nothing compared to the previous one, and my whole body was tormented by tremendous pain. It hurts, my head is cracking, my blood is burning, I can't withstand this kind of force. Yua. I collapsed onto the white floor helplessly, screaming and sprawling in pain. I felt my throat ripped open and was dripping blood, my eyes were bloodshot to the point of popping out, and my whole body was numb and jittery as if struck by lightning. Pain like hell. The pain was unbearable, akin to the ultimate torture that could even make one confess how much hair the king had on his ass. Along with this searing pain, an unknown memory, which I'd never seen nor heard before, but unmistakably mine, flooded into my head. In a strange world, I was traveling with someone, and he kicked me out, and I came back here. Every time I repeated it, my head hurt like it was going to explode. At the same time, the power I didn't know I had grew. 3, 4, 10, 20 worlds I've visited kept on increasing, the pain increased, and my soul screamed. Over 50, over 70, the limits of my endurance had long since been exceeded, but I still continued to accept the surge of power. Gu at uhawu. Why am I fighting so hard? Why am I clenching my teeth to the point of shattering, clenching my fists to the point my nails are digging into my flesh, and enduring this kind of power that is unworthy of me right now? I didn't know, I had no idea. I want to throw it away right now, but the first memory that came into my mind is laughing in my face. The first memory that came into my mind laughed at my face. The good me, the one with the beautiful girl I'd never met, shouted with a smile that made me want to cry. Don't give up. Then we can change our past and our future. Ku so jaya. I shouted one last time, loud enough for the whole world to hear. At the same time, my soul was burned out, and there I returned. Ha 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 ha, it is. My body had used up all its strength, and I couldn't even move a finger, but my mouth naturally burst into laughter. The last banishment skill that came to my brain, one more game. Its effect was quite simple. Start over from the beginning with all your memories and experiences. The ability of this banishment skill was only to transfer over, so I couldn't use it one more time, but that was fine. If I could use it all over again, I would probably be stuck in a never-ending loop and live a lousy life. Haya, good. After taking a deep breath, I stood up with renewed energy. I was bruised all over from my rampage, and my teeth were chipped from clenching too hard. But once I crossed the world, this level of injury would be taken care of with my banishment skill. That was why I stood in front of the door with my aching body. The walls that used to be ridiculously long were now much shorter, and the 101 doors that used to be lined up were now only one. The world of one, the first world where Tia and her friends were. No matter whether I cry or laugh, the second time will be the last time. Then, we all must be able to laugh, or else it would be useless, right? I know I could do it now. I could turn that shitty ending into a future where we all toast each other with our stupid faces on. Yash, here comes the second round. I'll use my strongest power to fight the demons and be expelled nicely. I grinned and opened the door, and without hesitation, I stepped into the nostalgic world for the second time. Chapter 13. It's better to regret something after you've done it than to regret not doing it. In other words, when in doubt, do it all. After passing through the door, I found myself in a nostalgic meadow. This was my third time in this world after all. But before I get too emotional, I had some things I had to do. As I was checking to see if my powers had really been transferred, I couldn't help but let out a grunt. The reason was that the auto-mapping skill only showed the area around me. Oh, so knowledge doesn't get transferred along with the skills. It's probably more useful to know that I haven't been to a place yet because I won't mistake it for having been there before. No, wait. I impatiently thrusted my hand into the stranger box. However, no matter how deep I plunged my hand into, my fingertips only grasped the empty space. I let out a tragic cry as I crumpled to the ground. No, indeed, memories and experiences didn't include goods. If so, it was only natural that the contents of the stranger box, which for the most part would be still unusable, would be empty. But the sense of loss was immeasurable. Damn, I was so proud of my collection too. With a heavy sigh, I started walking towards the town as planned. Unlike the first time, however, I walked up to the red dot that appeared in auto-mapping and pulled out my sword, which I've had on my hip since my original world, and quickly hunted the horned rabbit. Foo, I guess I'll be able to pay the town tax now. I can sell the meat if I dismantle it. But that's okay. The price of horned rabbit meat was negligible compared to the amount of effort required. Also, I already knew that there was no point in making a few pennies here. After that, I continued walking down the street and soon reached the first town where I first met Alexis and the others. I gave the guard at the entrance a rabbit instead of an entry tax and passed through the gate without any problems. Now, all I needed to do was wait for Alexis and the others to arrive here. What should I do? As I walked through the lively streets of the city, I was quietly lost in thought. The question, of course, was whether the reunion with Alexis and the others would be the same as the first time. The first time I met Alexis, I was scurrying around the streets of a different world that I had never been to before. I bumped into him, and he said, How dare a commoner like you bump into me, a hero? When I heard Alexis say that, I thought, he's the hero. If I miss this opportunity, I may never see him again. I clung desperately to his leg. After some persuasion, Alexis finally hired me as a porter. If I did the same thing this time, I should be able to join the hero party as a porter in the same way, but that won't work. Even if I became a member of the group from such a lowly position, I would not be able to gain enough power to influence the future of Alexis and the others. Then, I'd need to promote myself. The problem is how. One was to promote myself as a porter, which was something Alexis and his team were lacking right now. I had the stranger box, and that made my talent as a porter unparalleled and overwhelming in this world. If I demonstrated this, it would be possible for me to join the heroes' party without licking their boots and flattering them. On the other hand, a porter was only a porter. Alexis was not a fan of the attitude that overstepped his boundaries. If I insisted, actually, I can fight, there was a risk that I would simply be disliked before I could show my abilities. I would be expelled from the heroes' party before the designated time. Or rather, I would be expelled right away. Tia told me that the porter they hired after I left did that and got fired for it. MMM. If I am looking for stability and to extend my stay, I guess I'll go this way. I looked at the stalls giving off a nice smell, and slightly regretted that I should have hunted down one more horned rabbit to make some change. My mind wandered to another possibility. Another possibility was to sell myself as a swordsman. Losing the sword of thin life was quite a blow, but it didn't mean that my sword skills, which I had trained for 100 years, diminished. Previously, I was like, I don't know what it is, but anyway, it's insanely strong. The strength of Alexis, which I had only understood as the best of the best, should now be enough to match me. But it was not only a good thing here, either. Alexis and his party were not recruiting combatants, so no matter how good I was, there was a chance I would not be invited to join the party. As far as I knew, or rather until the very end, Alexis didn't seem to gain any more friends, so I could foresee that this route would lead to the worst possible outcome, where no matter how much I tried, I couldn't become one of them before I was banished. Which should I choose, a porter or a swordsman? I stopped at a corner of the main street and continued to ponder. Unlike the first time around, I was not stranded at the entrance gate, so I still had some time to spare, but that didn't mean I could think for hours. Once I made my choice, it was difficult to change my mind. If I made a strong impression at the beginning, that image would stick with them no matter what I did afterwards, so I could only be either a porter who could fight quite well, or a swordsman who could carry a rather large amount of luggage. I see. The thoughts that I had been mulling over in my head were all jumbled up and eventually came together to form into one thought. I see. So that's how it works. Then. Section. Look, isn't that the hero Alexis? Oh my god, yes, so cool. I never thought I'd be able to see the hero with my own eyes. Efu. Alexis ignored the shouts of praise from the commoners who passed by him with a relaxed expression. He understood that his reputation as a hero would be enhanced if he showed a resolute attitude and did not react to every single word he heard. Good grief, I'm just blessed with birth, looks, talent, ability, wisdom, and God's favor. Common people are exaggerating as usual. With a leisurely smile on his face, Alexis rambled on inwardly. He never doubted that he was a chosen one, and he took it all for granted. For Alexis, the prince of the great nation of Northland, who received the light of God's blessing on his body the moment he was born, it was as natural as breathing, so there was no need to be humble or demeaning. The people around him had no questions or complaints about his attitude. If an ordinary person did the same thing, they would be accused of being unprincipled. However, it was natural for Alexis, who was recognized by everyone as special, to desire special treatment. Therefore, if the special Alexis walked down the middle of the main street, even the large carriages would wait by the edge for Alexis to pass by. If Alexis wanted something, whatever it would definitely be in his hands. He was truly a special being chosen by the world and by God. However, as if to block the way of Alexis, a single figure suddenly appeared in front of him. What? Who are you? Hello, my hero friend. I was wondering if you might be looking for someone to fill a position. Would you be interested in the best porter and strongest swordsman? What? In front of him, an ordinary, dull young man talked to the special Alexis in a casual way. Alexis raised an eyebrow at the man who didn't treat him as someone special. But the man, Eid, grinned and put his hand on the sword on his hip. Chapter 14. Victory is not about winning, it's about achieving an objective. Hello, my hero friend. I was wondering if you might be looking for someone to fill a position. Would you be interested in the best porter and strongest swordsman? What? I grinned and Alexis gave me a skeptical look. He was a gentle man of 24 with soft blonde hair. Alongside his cool appearance, he also had a commanding presence. He was about 2 fingers taller than me. If we stood side by side, I bet Alexis would feel bigger than me. Just him being there was enough to overwhelm others. The very image of a hero. Yes, this feeling, I missed it. With that thought in mind, I slowly wrapped my hand around the hilt of the sword I wore on my waist. Yes, there was no need to hesitate. If I had 2 strengths, I should appeal to both of them. Just to warn you, though, I don't know what you think you're doing, but if you do pull your sword out, I won't show any mercy, okay? Of course. However, if you don't, you won't know how strong I am, will you? Ha, I get it. It's one of the roles of a hero to let a misunderstood man like you know the reality. There's no such thing as being too strong. In response to my provocation, Alexis sighed and pulled out his sword. His tone was more polite than the first time we had bumped into each other unexpectedly, but I had traveled with him and I could tell. This was a guy who was really pissed off. By the way, if I suddenly drew my sword in the street, the guards would come flying at me in a blink of an eye and take me down. The only exception to this was when the person I was facing was Alexis. The title of hero he carried with had a myriad of privileges as well as obligations, one of which was the need to demonstrate one's strength by accepting challenges from any and all people at any time. This duty, in theory, existed to prevent those without power from using the title of brave to do as they please, but in fact, by giving everyone the opportunity to defeat the brave. By giving, it became a message from the countries that you can't legally sue and seize the strongest and bravest of the hero, so if that's what you think, you're on your own. Well, that was it. Then, as a thank you for accepting the match, I'll give you the first move, hero. Ahe. The edge of Alexis' lips lifted at my words. Oh, he really is pissed off, huh? He has to be. If I did not get my abilities recognized in front of a crowd of people like this, I would not be able to join the hero's party as an equa. Oh, shit. Do you want to stop now? I barely blocked Alexis, sword with my own, as he closed in on me in an instant with no sound and no movement. Yes, barely, because, oh man, this iron sword is even shabbier than I imagined. The iron sword I held in my hand was the one I used when I was an ordinary mercenary in my original world. It was reasonably priced and had reasonable performance. It was impossible for my iron sword to take Alexis' sword, a holy sword that apparently used to be stuck in a rock somewhere, head-on. If I was unable to block a perfect strike by even a hair, my sword would break in an instant. What should I do? What's up? Will you come from there this time? Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll go lightly then. This time, I slashed at Alexis, who couldn't possibly know my inner turmoil. However, my sword stance was not one of killing the enemy, but one of being very careful not to break the sword. As I unleashed a barrage of wild strikes, Alexis defended with his holy sword. Nice speed, but as the saying goes, the blows are too light. You've got to be kidding me. No way. But you see, I can't let the hero get hurt, right? I mean, how could someone like you hurt me? You mean you really believe you can hurt me? Alexis got really pissed. This might be a bit of a bad idea in terms of swords. Very well, if you have that much confidence in yourself, let me show you a part of the power of the hero. As soon as he said that, Alexis, who had taken a large distance from me, raised the holy sword above his head. Then a light slowly appeared on the blade, and Alexis, who was holding it at a high level, swung the sword straight down on the spot. Take that, moonscraper. What? You idiot. If I dodge this, it'll hit the civilians behind me. I won't avoid it. Since his magical power made the slashes fly, that was, the essence of the technique was a physical attack. It could be easily nullified by using invisible. No, I see. In this form, what flew at me was a slash as round as a crescent moon. Therefore, I held my sword at a lower stance and swung it like I was scooping up. Then, the shining blade suddenly changed its trajectory upward and passed over my head and was sucked into the blue sky. At the same time, my iron sword, which I loved in my original world, snapped with a high-pitched sound. It was quite a close call, but it managed to get the last job done. What were you thinking? What would have happened if I hadn't prevented? Huh, what a foolish thing to say. Do you think I don't think that much? Ha ha ha, that's right, kid. As Alexis brushed his blonde hair back, I heard another familiar voice from behind me. I hurriedly turned around, and there stood a shirtless, muscular, middle-aged man with a huge body measuring 190 centimeters and a shining head. He must have been over 40 years old, but his body showed no signs of weakening. If it was a serious blow from the hero, I don't see how my muscles could be damaged by such a small attack. I've put up a barrier around the perimeter, just in case the kid does something crazy. Old man Gonzo no. The warrior monk Gonzo-sama. Oh what, you know me too, kid. If you know me, you should put some muscle on your poor body right now. Faith is muscle. Yeah, no, I'll pass on that. I wonder what it was. It had been almost 100 years since I had seen him, and yet I didn't feel any discomfort at all in this exchange. I think the fact that it was the first hero's party I joined left a strong impression on me. Of course, there was also the intensity of the person himself. Moo, what are you two doing? It was the third new voice I heard. My body involuntarily stiffened at the words of my last companion, who I hadn't seen in 100 years and a day. She had a petite body of about 160 centimeters and sunny yellow hair that was slightly redder than Alexis' blonde hair. Her jade-green eyes were filled with the curiosity of life, and just staring into them made my chest tighten, as if it would burst. Alexis, I was wondering why you didn't come back. What are you doing here? Ha, look what you got to say. As usual, I'm just giving the common people who don't know their place a little taste of my awesomeness. What's little? You even used the power of the holy sword. Hey, you, are you okay? Alexis shrugged his shoulders as he sheathed his holy sword, and Tia replied in a stunned voice before approaching me. That worried look in the corner of her eyes was a face I had seen countless times during the adventure that began and ended here. Tia. What? How do you know my name? Do I know you by any chance? I couldn't help but call out her name, and Tia tilted her head in confusion. Even though it was the second time for me, it was the first time for Tia. I hurriedly came up with a good excuse. Ah. No, that's the friends and the party members of the hero's party are admired by everyone. I mean, I know the names at least. Ah, I see, that's right. It's not like I'm keeping my name a secret. Well, let me introduce myself again. I'm Lunarsha, a spirit magic user who's on a journey with Alexis to defeat the demon lord. Nice to meet you. Ah yes, I'm Eid, a traveling swordsman and porter. So you're Eid. Nice to meet you, Eid. Aside from being a swordsman, you're also a porter. I shook hands with Tia, which she held out to me with her face tilted in a cute way. When my fingers intertwined with her slender fingers, I could feel a definite warmth in my palm. Ah, she's alive. Tia is alive and smiling. Wait, why are you crying? I placed my hand on my cheek as Tia's eyes widened in shock. Evidently, I had been crying without knowing it. No, this is, see. I didn't expect the member of the hero's party to call me by my name, and I was so happy that I burst into tears. That's it. W, what should I do? W, what am I supposed to do? Haha, I'm sure it will stop soon, don't worry about it. Oh, but yes, if you want. What? That, could you say my name one more time, please? Name. Okay, Eid. Yes. Fufu, you are funny, Eid. Tia smiled innocently at me, and I smiled back as best I could while tears distorted my vision. Chapter 15. Excess of good things is scarier than just a happy thing. Fu, I'm sorry for that. I've calmed down now. Oh great, so, what were you and Alexis doing? You weren't really having a fight, were you? Alexis's protesting voice came from behind her. I wouldn't get into a fight with this guy. But she didn't intend to respond to it. It was a very wise decision. Ah, yes. In fact, I was wondering if I could be included in the hero's party that I've been longing for, so I asked the hero to check my abilities. Is that so? It's true that if you can match Alexis, you're strong. But we're not really worried about the strength of our party. Tia creased her brow and replied to my words. That reaction was to be expected. I didn't panic and continued with my words. You are right, so. But that's okay. I have a feeling that Eid and I will get along just fine. Porter, what? Hey, Alexis, can I have Eid as a friend? What? What kind of selfish thing are you saying? I've been explaining to you many times that if we add more people in our team now, we won't be able to work together and will become weaker. I know that, but why don't we train together? You don't mind, do you, Gonzo? Yeah, I don't mind. I don't care how weak you are now, I'll mold your body into a fine muscular one with my hands. 2 against 1 then, I'm Eid's friend all right. Nice to meet you, Eid. Ah yes, nice to meet you. What just happened? I was thinking of various strategies to join the heroes' party, but I realized that I had already joined the heroes' party. A. Are you really sure you want to do this? I'm sure, hey Alexis. Puzzled, I asked, and Tia, smiling, turned around and called out to Alexis. However, it was extremely unusual for Alexis to have a bitter expression on his face, even though he was in a public place. Ha, I know there's nothing I can say to you at a time like this. I don't strongly disagree with you joining us, because you certainly seem to have a minimum level of ability, but what are we going to do about the supply problem? Didn't we discuss that it's time to start thinking seriously about making expeditions away from our towns and bases? Ah, I see, that's there too. Alexis' bitter words caused Tia to think about it. At this time of the year, Alexis and her team had completed most of the missions that could be accomplished in a day or a few days, and they were thinking of taking on smaller dungeons that would take a week or 10 days to complete. However, if they were to operate without supplies for that long, they would have to carry a reasonable amount of water and food, and they would need people to take care of that. Until now, each of them had been carrying their own food and water, but if they had to carry that much food and water on their own, it would interfere with the battle. See, can I carry your luggage? Then that was why I was here to step in. Or rather, I had been planning to do so from the beginning, so it was not surprising. But Alexis gave me a suspicious look at my proposal. You seem like a pretty good swordsman, but you're not going to tell me that you can carry all of our stuff and still move as well as you did just now, are you? No way. Actually, I have a useful magic tool. Here, this is it. I'd been using it since I was a miscellaneous mercenary, just like the iron sword. I put the hilt of my broken and useless iron sword in the bag it pretended, but actually stored it away in the stranger box. Then, of course, the sword, which was not supposed to be in the small bag, slipped away and disappeared into another space, and Alexis and the others' eyes widened in astonishment. What? Oikun, what the hell is that? As you can see, it's a strange bag that can hold a lot of stuff, despite its appearance. For some reason, if anyone other than me uses it, it seems to revert back to a normal bag, so I can't sell it or give it away. But if I use it, there's plenty of room to fill it with all the supplies in town, right? If I had explained that it was a magic bag that could be used by anyone, he would have commandeered it with his heroic authority. But if it could only be used by me, it would not only be meaningless, but he would have lost a big opportunity to carry a tremendous amount of luggage. Haha, what are you going to do, hero? If you want this substandard cargo-carrying ability, bring me into your party, though I've already joined. Wow, Eid, you have such a great magic tool. You did it, Alexis. Isn't this the solution? Gaha, that's right. Carrying heavy loads is also a good way to grow muscles, but being able to carry a large number of adamantine pieces with you so that you can train anytime, anywhere is really appealing. I'll have them brought over from home later, please, kid. Ah yes, as you please. Yeah, I'd never heard of it in the first round, but old man Gonzo had one of those. Sure, you could carry it because the weight of the contents became negligible, but you still needed to exercise your muscles. Okay. It certainly seems to be an extremely useful magical tool. I'll leave it to you to carry our bags. In the meantime, here's it. I caught the piece of metal with one hand as Alexis flicked it with a pang and sent it flying. Then I opened my hand and saw that there was gold coins inside. Yuashisama. So, go buy as many supplies as you think we'll need. You don't have to return the excess. What? But these are gold coins, right? Are you sure you didn't make a mistake? The average income of a commoner in this world was about 80 copper coins per day. 100 copper coins were equal to 1 silver coin, and 100 silver coins equal to 1 gold coin. When it was my first time around here, I only received 1 silver coin. Well, of course. You could not just suddenly hand over a large sum of money to someone you didn't know. So, I thought it would be the same this time. What is this? There is no mistake. But if you can carry as much as you want, it's more efficient to buy in bulk than to buy little by little, right? There's no such thing as the strongest swordsman in the world with me around, but if you're the best porter, show me what you're capable of. I understand. I will do my best to live up to your expectations. I politely bowed and responded to Alexis, who snorted. I see, so this was a test. How will I use this money, what will I buy, and how much will I buy? This was a test of my ability as a person who managed supplies and not simply as a porter. Foo-foo, okay. I accept your challenge. I haven't carried a pack for 100 years. I will make sure you are fully and completely prepared for your journey and make you squeal in comfort. Let's go then. See you later, you two. Yes. In a very casual way, Tia excitedly pulled my arm. It seemed that shopping was with two people. Why? Section, Audiobook by Masquerade at Masquerade Audiobooks. Chapter 16. Even the simplest of goals are often unachievable. Big things, shopping together with Eid. It was strange. How could this have happened? As Tia took my arm firmly and sang cheerfully, I tried to talk to her while hiding my inner confusion. Just now, the hero called for something. Was it okay? It's okay. I was just trying to be mean Eid anyway. Eid is one of us now, so you don't have to suffer through more hardships. Huh. Indeed, my usefulness was unquestionable, as I showed off my skill with a sword and the storage capacity of the stranger box. But Alexis wasn't satisfied with that and tried to test me further. That plan had been destroyed in seconds by the cheerful elf here. I mean, what the hell was this? The fact that the achievement of seeing Alexis' barking face was achieved in an instant was okay, but the problem was Tia's attitude. Tia-san. Moo. When I called her name, Tia, who should have been in a good mood, instantly puffed out her cheeks and pouted. What is it? Name, why are you calling me like a stranger when you called me Tia earlier? You can just call me Tia like normal, and the way you talk. But we've only just met. As I said this, Tia's fingers squeezed my mouth. Who are you to talk about such things? Why don't you call my name? Ouch. This hurts like hell, I understand. Okay, Tia, is that okay? Passed. Tia took her fingers away from my mouth and nodded with a big smile on her face. I knew Tia very well, and that was why I couldn't shake the feeling of discomfort. Hey, Tia, I'm going to ask you one more time. Why are you being so nice to me when we've just met? What's that? Did you think I was cold? No, it's not that. It's just that you're much more friendly than I expected. It was true that Tia was sociable and shy, but that didn't mean she was stupid enough to trust someone she had just met unconditionally. The first Tia I knew would have said, "Have a good day. Good luck," and waved and cheered me on, but she would not have come with me. The discomfort was such that I suspected that even Tia had inherited her memories of the future. The memory of it gave me a burning sensation of frustration in my chest. Really? If you ask me, sure, why? In spite of my concern, Tia tilted her head and started to wonder. Although we'd only known each other for a year and a half, if she was still acting like this, she wouldn't have inherited any memories. But then there was no explanation for her attitude. What? You know, we elves live a lot longer than you humans, right? Oh well. Suddenly, Tia started to talk to me about something that didn't seem to have anything to do with me, which made me confused. The longer you live, the more things you experience and the more things you forget. In fact, I've been alive for over 100 years, and I don't know how much I've forgotten. But it's only natural that I've forgotten. Foo-foo. The small smile on Tia's face was as adorable as a young girl's. However, deep in her eyes, I could see the depth of a person who had undoubtedly lived a long life. I understood, having experienced it myself, that 100 years was a long time to live. But you know, there are some memories that you never want to forget, right? We elves carve those memories into our souls. Soul? Yeah, of course. It's not like I'm doing anything really special, you know? I just hold it gently in my heart and burn it strongly into my mind. Like a slice of time that is cut out and preserved so that it will never fade even after hundreds of years. When I do that, strangely enough, I never forget. But if the feelings are too strong, they will remain burned into your soul even after you die and are reborn. That's why, sometimes, I feel nostalgic for sights I've never seen before or people I've never met before. When I saw Eid's face when he suddenly started crying earlier, it reminded me of a story I heard somewhere. Are the dead really reborn? I didn't have the answer to that question, but I couldn't deny it because I was a being who had memories and experiences of the far future burned into my soul. However, I had indeed met a few people who had experienced what Tia had just described. It wasn't limited to elves, but it would be foolish to point that out. I see, soul memory, I've certainly heard that story before. Right. So maybe, just maybe, before I became me, I met and was friends with someone when Eid wasn't Eid, right? I don't really know myself, but haha. Yes, that's quite an honor. I couldn't find anything more to say to Tia's shy face. There was nothing more to say. The future that awaited us was marked with a predictive line. It had already been proven that it was possible to change that line at will. Then, there was nothing to worry about. I should do everything in my power to impose the future I wanted on this world. Come on, Eid, forget that. Let's go shopping. I don't care how short-tempered Alexis is, but we can't keep him waiting too long, okay? Hey. Can you really call a hero short-tempered? It's okay, we're the only ones who can say that. If you want, Eid, why don't you try calling Alexis by his name? I think he's going to look really funny, don't you think? I think I'll refrain from doing that for a while longer. Tia's attitude could be mistaken, but we had only just met. Old man Gonzo probably won't mind, but I think Alexis would seriously frown. That would certainly be interesting, but I would rather not be disliked by the hero himself since I have only joined the party. Well, eventually, I'll get them to acknowledge me so I can call them by their names. I'm going to have to work hard on shopping for that. Right, so what are you going to buy, Eid? Well, if you got a gold coin, I think you can buy most things. Phew, I've thought about that. I know exactly where the stores are that sell supplies. Oh, I said with a smug look on my face, and Tia gave me a small round of applause. I hadn't planned to end up being just a porter from the start, so I had a plan drawn up in my head to be able to take charge of all the supplies. Well, I didn't think I would have to carry that out on the first try, but if I had gold coins in my pocket, I could handle it. So, first, we'll turn down the street by the dried fish shop on the side of the main street, then take the third corner to the left, and it's the third store from the back, on a back street. Dried fish on the side, huh? What's that store? I don't know anything about it. It's a little known place on the road. I don't know if it is because people don't know about it, or if it is because no one knows about it, that there are good products lying around for cheap prices. I don't know how they manage their business, but they are somehow managing it. Wow, that sounds kind of interesting. I was going to show you around, but if that's the case, maybe I can get Eid to show me around. Leave it to me, Aju-sama. I'll take you to a nice, weird, and smelly store. Nice and weird and stinky. I took Tia's hand, her long ears twitching with curiosity, like a kitten, and pulled her along. The hands I held were just as warm as they were on that day, but this time, the warmth never went away. Chapter 17. Why is it so much fun to answer a question about winning? I'm home. We're back. When we entered the room in the most luxurious inn in town, we were greeted by the stern face of Alexis. That would be the kind of face I'd get if he had given a test to a newcomer, but their fellow examiner ignored it and went along with the newcomer in high spirits. Welcome back, Tia. So how did it go? What? I see. Well, I didn't expect that kind of thing from you from the start, so it's okay. Moo, look, Eid. Alexis is acting so mean right now as soon as I'm back. See? Ha. Alexis shook his head in annoyance, and Tia puffed out her cheeks as much as she could and looked at me. However, the best I could do was to give her a bitter smile. So, let me check your work, shall I? Okay. Should I put it here? Yes, of course, as long as you haven't bought anything that could get ruined. Alexis grinned at me, but I didn't really pay attention to him as I reached my hand into my bag and took out the items I had purchased from the stranger box that I had secretly activated. The first thing we need is food. According to Tia, we won't be leaving town anytime soon, so we've only purchased preserved food this time. We have enough food that lasts for 3 months and another batch of food that would last us a year. A pile of food accumulated on the fluffy carpet. For 4 people, including me, this was a considerable amount of food. Well packed. I did my research carefully. It was a bit expensive, but I bought it from a big store I trust. Cheap was not always good. The only people who would buy food, something that was directly related to life, at a stall for a pile of money would be naive monks or people with strong stomachs who wouldn't die even if they ate rocks. Not that I didn't have that kind of banishment skill, but I was not going to use it because I'd seriously cry if I was the only one chomping on a rock while everyone else was eating normally. So next is this. Avoiding the pile of food, I took out a large magic tool, this time with a thud. It was a large, chunky, waist-high device that was not intended to be carried, of course. Let's not dwell on the fact that it's obviously huge and bigger than the mouth of the bag. But what is this? It looks like some kind of magic tool. Fufufu, this is a magic tool that produces water. Water, I said with a smug look on my face, but Alexis blatantly frowned at me. What do you mean? Tia provides the water for our party, so we don't need it, right? Didn't Tia tell you? No, I did. I said so many times, but Eid insisted on buying it. It cost us 50 pieces of silver. Why did you buy it then? Of course. First of all, since you probably don't know this, let me explain. 50 silver coins for this magic tool, even though it is used, is unbelievable. If you buy a new one, it usually costs 10 times as much. What? It's that expensive? That's right. As long as you have enough mana, you can produce water infinitely. I hate to say it, but even Tia, who works the same way as this tool, realizes how useful her powers are, don't you? That's well, yeah, water is heavy. Yes, the water was heavy. In spite of this, people needed a lot of water to survive. And that was why before these things became popular, large-scale human living areas were limited to the water side. But if it's the same as Tia's magic, then we don't need it, do we? You're not going to tell me that you bought to resell it and make up the difference, are you? No, it's not. It is true that this thing also consumes magic power, but there is no problem if you put the required amount into a magic stone beforehand. This means that by imbuing the magic stone with mana while we are in a safe place, we can reduce the consumption of mana when we are in a dangerous place. In addition, if Tia-san were to get injured, or if the party were to be split up for any reason, we could secure a certain amount of water in any location with this. I think it's quite fortuitous that I was able to get this for only 50 pieces of silver if we plan to be away from the city for a long time. I see. You certainly have a point. Alexis nodded after hearing my explanation, and I inwardly made a victory pose. Although it was hard to tell from the outside, his expression meant that I got a very high evaluation. Well, this was a serious bargain. When I found this in that shady store where I happened to get lost the first time around, I bit my teeth at the thought of having only 1 silver coin in my hand. Even then, I'd come back here and tell Alexis that was definitely a useful tool. But at the time, he was like, "Why do we need it when we have Tia?" I couldn't refute those words, and as a result, I couldn't buy it. And that led to a tragedy later on. But that was a long time ago. Incidentally, in case they didn't sell this, I was thinking of buying a large number of water bottles and filling them with water to carry around as an alternative, but I honestly didn't want to do that because it would be extremely complicated to maintain and manage the water bottles. It wouldn't be funny if I mistook the old one for the new one and drank a year-old water bottle and had a stomach ache. The rest are small consumables. I was told that everyone already had their own camping gear, so I refrained from buying it this time. If you want to buy a new one because it's getting worn out, I can prepare a new one after hearing your requirements, though. No, we don't need to go that far. I don't do day trip adventures all the time, you know. That's good to know. And finally, then I took out an iron sword with a dull shine. I traded in my beloved sword, which had been broken, for 5 copper coins and got a new partner. Oh, you bought a sword as well. That's right. It would be foolish to leave a warrior of my caliber idle. Even though I just joined today, I was already a member of the hero's party. Then, my strength was the party's strength, and the expenditures for the weapons I needed to fight should come out of the party's funds. If I hadn't procured a weapon out of unnecessary modesty, saying, "I can't buy my own weapon with the money I've been given," Alexis would probably have cursed me for it. But from the looks of it, it's not a very good quality sword. I honestly thought you were going to pour most of the money I gave you into buying your sword. I've been thinking about that, but I have a better method this time, so it's just a makeshift for now. Better way. Yes. I have a great offer for you to practice your expedition, learn to fight along with me, and get some great armor as well. Let's hear it, what is it? I grinned at him like a crooked merchant, and Alexis said with a slight twitch, Why don't we go to Atorumtine? There's a great treasure there. Yes, but this was a trick. I won't pull my weight. Since it was my second time, I was 6 months ahead of the world. Chapter 18. Don't turn away from inconvenient facts. It is the courage to accept that turns into strength. Ah, this is Otto. What was it again? Tia asked. Atorumtine. Yeah, that's it. Atorumtine. Next to me, Tia was happily looking around the town, smiling. From behind us, Alexis, who had gotten off the carriage, had a complicated expression on his face. Save your excitement for later. Eid, are you sure this is where the treasure is? Oh yes, the treasure. Ever since you said, you'll see when you get there. I've been curious about it for so long, Tia exclaimed with joy. Gahaha, don't be so hasty, you long-lived elf. There must have been some circumstances with the kid that kept him from telling us, right? Old man Gonzo said, laughing. Of course. However, it's not something we can talk about here, so would you mind if we booked an inn and talk about it there? I don't mind. How about you, Alexis? You're right, standing around here and talking about it is not very elegant. That's fine with me. Me too. Well, there you go. With the whole party in agreement, we walked through the town of Atorumtine. The people walking through the streets were bustling, but there were only a few stalls, indicating that this was not a town that catered to outsiders. Wow, all those chimneys. Are they all blacksmiths? Then surely, they must have some awesome weapons. Don't be ridiculous, Tia. There are no weapons in this town, aren't there? Why, idiot. Ah, the hero is right this time. It's true that this is a town of mines and blacksmiths, but what can be mined here is silver. So, what they make here is mainly tableware. So maybe the treasure is some kind of legendary tableware that can make any food taste good. That's great. If we can improve the taste, maybe even the little boy can have a taste of my muscle pills. No, that's a little, well anyway. We'll talk about it in detail when we get to the inn. Yes, Id-sensei, Tia said excitedly. By the way, what the old man Gonzo called muscle pill was a highly concentrated pill that only contained the nutrients necessary for muscle growth. The taste of blood and fat that slowly dissolved in the mouth evoked a nausea that was incomparable to that of ordinary poisons, and was not something that a person with a proper sense of taste could eat. In addition, when I was made to eat it when I didn't know anything about it, I threw up as hard as I could and couldn't taste anything for about 3 days. I definitely won't eat it the second time around. After such dangerous and amusing chit-chat, we arrived at the inn before long. Unfortunately, there was no such thing as a luxury inn that Alexis could book, but we got a room at the best inn in town and we looked at each other again. Then, please explain, Alexis said after closing the door. All right. Then, I obtained this information from a reliable source, and it seems that this silver mine is inhabited by rockworms. Rockworms? Alexis was taken aback by my words as I slowly started to speak. Of course, rockworms were mineral-eating magic beasts that would shorten the life of any mine quickly if targeted by them. In addition, the areas it had devoured were filled with holes, and there had been many cases of large-scale collapses due to people not noticing the presence of rockworms. This Atorumtine was no exception. If left unchecked, the mine would collapse in about 3 months. By the time we visited the town 6 months later on my first visit, it was a dark place of hopelessness and despair, abandoned by those who had lost their jobs. Hey, Eid, are you sure you can trust that information? It couldn't have been a joke, right? Of course. The other party is a living magic beast, so I wouldn't go so far as to say that it is devouring the mines at this very moment. However, there is no doubt that it is using the silver mines of Atorumtine as a feeding ground. Then, why did you keep this information from us? It's to make sure we kill the rockworm ourselves. If, for some reason, the information were to leak out, it would be a disaster in more ways than one. And Mithril. I grinned inwardly at Alexis' bitter expression as he muttered. But beside us, there was one long-eared elf girl who couldn't keep up with the conversation. Hey, I don't understand, but what does that annoying magic beast have to do anything with Mithril? Oh, you don't know Tia. Tia, do you know what Mithril is? Surprised, I asked. What Mithril is Mithril, right? Because of the high rate of transfer of mana and a high capacity for mana, most of the best magic tools and weapons with magic enchantments are made of mithril. I'm not talking about that. I'll tell you what. Mithril is a mutation of silver that has been exposed to mana for a long time. Really? So, maybe all the silver in this mountain, where strong magic beasts live, has been turned into mithril. Tia creased her forehead when I looked at her with a troubled expression. I don't know if I should say this, she'd find out soon enough anyway. If you add mana to silver, it becomes mithril. That's true, but in reality, it needs to be exposed to very strong magical power all the time, from morning to night, to become mithril. So, it's not enough to have a magic beast living nearby. You will need to expose it to the magic beast's mana for a long time. So what? Rockworms eat ore, but not all of the ore they eat is digested and absorbed. The remaining ore continues to be bathed in rockworm's mana in its belly, and over the course of decades, it turns into mithril. In other words, wait, I don't want to hear it. Mithril is the undigested poop of rockworms. No, I don't want to hear it. The reality was so cruel that Tia squeezed her long ears shut with her hands and shook her head in disgust. Well, yeah, if you hadn't heard about it before, it was a natural reaction. For the record, we didn't see it the first time. We asked the people of this town to dismantle the corpses in order to give work to those who lost their jobs. Later, we were given a lump of mithril, but all we were told at the time was that it came from this mine. How I didn't know mithril was such a thing, Tia muttered. There are mithril mines that change with natural environmental magic, though. In that case, it would be more like a regular mithril mine, and that should be much more productive for the world as a whole. Then, the mithril I've been touching is not magic beast's poo, is it? Maybe. Realistically, the majority of mithril products on the market should be made from mithril mined and processed. If it was a normal commercially available product, it would definitely be that one. But that's exactly the kind of treasure we're after this time, you know? I added. W, what do you mean? Fufufu, lodged feces in the belly of a rockworm, is the perfect lump of pure mithril that can never be obtained from a mine. That's the treasure we're after, and the material for our new weapons. NOOO. Tia's heartbreaking cry echoed throughout the room of the inn. But this was the one thing I couldn't give up. If they want to think about the future after I was gone, they absolutely need it. Gahahaha, it doesn't matter if it's shit or not, as long as it makes you stronger. No, I don't want a poop weapon. Give up, Tia. A weapon made of pure mithril would certainly be a strength multiplier, I said. Then Alexis would get it too, right? Hahaha, I have this holy sword. That's not fair, hey Eid. You wouldn't do something so horrible, would you? Leave it to me, I'll prepare the best weapon for you. I patted her on the shoulder with the biggest smile I could muster, and Tia started to cry as she bit on the absurdity of the world. After that, I was harassed in the most insidious ways, such as having my ears and cheeks pulled and my knees snapped from behind, but 5 days later, we finally decided to enter the mine to kill the rockworm. Chapter 19. Not everything that enters our mouths is delicious food. This is the most unpleasant job I've ever had in my life. You've got to switch it up, your muscles are crying. Muscles don't cry. Adjacent to the town of Atorumtine was a large silver mine. The dark, cold tunnels of the mine were filled with the strange conversation happening between Tia and Gonzo. That's enough from both of you. So, Eid, are you sure this is the right direction? Yes, of course. I nodded confidently to Alexis, who asked me while making a dismissive remark to Tia and Gonzo, who were arguing with each other. I was holding a map in my left hand, and on my right hand, which I had curled back into a ball, the familiar banishment skill Akashic Compass was present. For this mission, I confided in Alexis and the others about the Akashic Compass, one of the countless banishment skills I possessed. Knowing the existence of this, and having done a fair amount of verification, and searching for the clues hidden all over town, Alexis made the rather reckless decision to close the mine for 1 day and evacuate all the workers. They really took action. The authority of the hero was seriously impressive. Incidentally, the reason I didn't tell them about auto-mapping and had a borrowed map in my hand was because the military value of an accurate map was too high. Even if we were not talking about this aspect, if that ability was inadvertently leaked somewhere, there was a possibility of kidnapping or assassination. Well, if something like that were to come along, we would either beat them in a second or run away in a second. The fact that it can even detect the location of magical beasts in the mountains makes it a very useful magical tool indeed. It is inconvenient, though, that it can be used only by you. Alexis said. Ede has so many things. Like that bag, where the hell did you find it? Tia asked. Haha, well, that's a secret. Let's take that path to the left. The compass seems to be pointing that way. We walked quickly through the unoccupied tunnels. Since this was a place where people had worked until yesterday, there was no chance of strange magical beasts attacking us by surprise, and we knew exactly where our target was, so our vigilance was at a minimum. Then, with minimal physical and mental exhaustion, we went deeper and deeper, and eventually arrived at the end of the tunnel. Dead end. What are you going to do, Ede? Don't tell me you're going to dig a hole from here to Rockworm's place, Tia questioned while looking at the dead end. Gahaha, looks like it's my turn to show off my muscles. No, I'm going to ask you to postpone that option forever. And there's no need to dig a hole, see. I grinned at Tia and tapped on the rock face at the end of the road, lightly passing over Old Man Gonzo, who was showing off his muscles. Yeah, this one won't collapse so easily. Then, I kicked as hard as I could at the rock wall, but of course, a mere kick didn't do anything to the rock wall. Ede, what are you doing? Confused, Tia asked. What, you wanna dig holes with your muscles? HMPH, fine. Sometimes it's our duty as elders to let the young muscle do the work. That's not what I said, say. 2 or 3 kicks and still no change on the rock wall. Yes, there were no changes, not a single pebble fell, even though I was kicking as hard as I could. So the shock accumulated again, and eventually Alexis sighed, right at that moment. This, how is it? My last kick shook the mine with a slight wobbling of my feet. I returned the impact that I had accumulated through my banishment skill orbit reflector in a single stroke. It was not, however, something that would shatter the rock wall and make a huge hole. It only shook and conveyed the impact. That was enough. The vibration, which was different from the one I gave, was rapidly approaching us. We've caught the fish, they're coming out. All members ready for battle, Alexis shouted. Alexis drew his holy sword at the same time I hastily took my place, and Old Man Gonzo stepped forward. His naked upper body, still without armor or even clothes, was boiling bright red, and steam was about to spurt out at any moment. H-O-O-O-O. With a squeal, a rockworm mouth so large that it could swallow Tia whole came flying out. Old Man Gonzo took the jagged teeth, which could chew up even hard ore, head-on in the flesh. Let's go, Ede. Aura. After confirming this, Alexis and I split to the left and right and ran past the rockworm. When we reached the wall, we thrust our swords deeply into the rockworm's body. G-Y-O-O-O-O. Heh, you ain't gonna get away from here, I snickered. Tia. I'll take care of it. If it tried to move forward, Old Man Gonzo would get in his way. But if it tried to pull back, the sword me and Alexis had thrust into him would become a wedge that would cut his own mouth in half. Tia, in response to Alexis' call, unleashed her all-out spirit magic against the rockworm, which was desperately flailing about in a desperate attempt to retreat. The red lance that glistens with red flames, the 4-fingered spirit arm that pierces with dull light. Penetrate, tear, burn, and extinguish. In the name of Lunarisha, manifest volcanic lancer. As soon as she finished her chanting, 2 bright red spears of flame slipped past Gonzo's side and pierced into the mouth of the rockworm. Moreover, the spear didn't fly in a straight line, but instead curved in all directions to match the shape of the rockworm's body, flying inside its body to burn it completely from head to buttocks. G-Y-O-O-O-O. The pain was so intense that the rockworm pulled itself into the hole, not even willing to tear its mouth open. The body was torn open, but only a small part of the huge body of the rockworm was exposed. In human terms, it would be like being cut in 2 from the neck up. But unfortunately, the head of a rockworm was not a vital part of the body, so even though it was extremely painful, it would not kill it. Tia's magic was not powerful enough to completely burn the rockworm's entire body. If this kept up, the rockworm would be able to escape into the rocks and enjoy a relaxing vacation in a place where we couldn't touch it. Sorry, you'll have to wait until another time for your vacation. Ede. Tia called out to me from behind as I jumped into the mouth of the rockworm without hesitation. I ignored it and activated the Hermes dash. Taking advantage of the fact that everything around it was soft flesh, I forced my way through the body of the rockworm, and when I reached the middle of the body, I found a part of the wall of flesh that was raised. I stand by my earlier statement, you can rest forever, blood sword refinement. With the knife at my waist, I slit my right wrist and thrust the blood that flowed out that turned into a blade into the area of the varicose vein. Then the whole area vibrated and the movement stopped. The hilt is gone, so I can't make the sword of thin life, but I can make this one. There's nothing it can't pierce. I win, you worm. While healing the wound on my wrist with the banishment skill regenerate, I announced my victory quietly, alone in the belly of the scorching, foul-smelling magical beast. Chapter 20. If you can't leave it to others, do it yourself. Eid, hey Eid. You don't have to call me that many times. I can hear you. Eid. As I slithered up and out of the leaning rockworm's body, Tia immediately jumped on my body, which now smelled very foul. Eid, you idiot, why were you so reckless? No, I was not reckless. I knew Tia's magic had burned the rockworm's organs, so I knew it wouldn't melt, and in this condition, it wouldn't fill the hole I'd dug. Fill? A hole? Yeah, of course, right. If the hole that this big guy went through was still there, the mountain would collapse in no time. That's true, but how? Rockworms only eat ore, right? But ore exists with soil. In other words, the soil exhausts. I understand, that's enough. I explained to her as she requested, but for some reason, Tia gently turned her head away and distanced herself from me. How unreasonable. And, how did it go? Alexis asked. Phew, that's of course this way. Alexis looked at me with a dumbfounded look on his face, but I smiled broadly and pulled out a shiny silver metal lump from the stranger box in my bag. Wow, it's beautiful, but this thing, Tia exclaimed. For such a huge magical beast, it's only this big? Old man Gonzo muttered. No, it's enough. I've never seen a pure mithril ingot before. I placed a huge lump of pure mithril on the ground. It probably weighed about 50 kilos in my hand. To put it simply, it was a big catch. Alexis said he's never seen this kind before, so how much is it worth? Tia asked. It's unprocessed material, so this alone won't fetch that high a price, but it's not something that money can buy. If you're rich enough to have a blacksmith's connections who can handle this, you could buy an entire castle, you know. What, that much? Tia, surprised to hear the price, made a funny sound and poked the mithril lump with her finger while muttering. Even though it's that thing, even though it's that. With such childish Tia behind me, I continued to discuss the matter with Alexis. Therefore, Yuasha-sama, it's difficult using this guy as it is, however. I know, I will introduce you to a renowned blacksmith on my side. In that case, no, that would not be necessary. But would it be possible to rent a workshop somewhere for a week or so? Does that mean you also have a connection? I won't say that. How should I say it? Actually, besides being a porter and a swordsman, I have a little bit of confidence in my blacksmithing skills. Cheats, here we go. Don't forget your 100 years of experience, okay? Section. Ho, this guy's good. Alexis looked at me with an indescribable expression on his face, and through his connections, I was able to rent a small workshop in Adorumtine. I tried to give Alexis some of the pure mithril lump as a thank you for his help, but he said, "You found the magical beast in the first place, and now you want me to take the credit for it." I was told while ruffling my hair, so the whole thing was still in my stranger box. The furnace is well taken care of, and the tools are all there. This isn't a spare or anything. It's a place someone uses on a daily basis, right? Was it really safe to borrow it? Yes, no problem. We have received sufficient compensation from our heroes, and, above all, that rockworm. If that thing had not been exterminated, this town would have suffered an irreversible catastrophe. When I think of how grateful I am for that, this is nothing. The person who was unlocking the workshop and giving me a tour said so with a smile as I checked the rooms. Well, while Alexis was a man who didn't hesitate to use his power, he was also a man who didn't wield power except when necessary, so I doubt that Alexis forced him into renting it. Also, considering that the owner could brag about how well he was paid or how he lent his workshop to a hero, it was even possible that it was more of a me competition. Then, if there is anything missing, please contact the government office. If it is general consumables, you may buy them on the tab. I will pay you later. No, I can't ask you to go that far. Thank you very much. Now, I will use it with great care. With that, I bowed my head and the person who guided me left the workshop, leaving the key behind. Then, I was the only one left in the workshop, not alone. So, what are you going to do now? What I'm going to do is, I'm going to process this guy. Are you sure you want a look? Tia stared at me with sparkling eyes as I began to prepare for the forge. I can't speak for you, but this isn't something I enjoy watching, okay? Ara, that's not for you to decide, is it? I decide if it's fun or not. So don't worry about it, Eid. Well, that's okay. It can get really hot, just in case, so don't push yourself too hard, okay? Also, while I'm concentrating, I won't respond to your calls, so you can lock the door then and leave at random. What? What will Eid do if I lock the door? I'll take care of that. It was not like it was a treasure room in the castle, so a key to a workshop like this was nothing. Of course, if I were seen doing something, I would be considered a trespasser. However, this time, it was well known that I would be renting this place, so I would not be reported for making a little mess at the entrance of this workshop. Whatever, hey, Eid can really do anything. I can't do everything. There are plenty of things I can't do. My hands always fail me. Tia's smile suddenly overlapped with the last smile I saw her give that day. I don't know if there was any point in worrying about a future that had not yet come and would not be reached again, but that bitter memory will never leave me. Eid. It's nothing. Well then, let's do it. Shaking my head, I fired up the furnace and took a lump of pure mithril out of the stranger box. Mithril did not require very high temperatures to melt, but temperature control was extremely important to maximize the properties of mithril. If it's too hot, it will vaporize unnecessarily, and if it's too cold, it will melt unevenly. If we had a magic furnace, it would be easy. The magic furnace, a treasured item desired by blacksmiths all over the world, was capable of adjusting heat with magic power. However, this technology did not exist in this world. I suppose it would be possible to make one using my banishment skills, but since I didn't remember every detail of the blueprints of the magic furnace, it would be virtually impossible. Therefore, I carefully placed the coal in the furnace. Master Smith was effective in controlling the temperature of the furnace, but if I relied on my skills, I wouldn't be able to make a really good product. Okay, that's good. When the time was right, I poured the mithril lumps I had obtained into the furnace. Soon after, molten mithril was dripping from the mouth of the furnace, and I slowly hammered away at it. Build it. Build the future. Change the end. I will build the weapon that will open up our destiny so that I will never have to lose my friends again with my own hands deviating from our destiny. I put my soul into each and every stroke. No matter how skilled I may be with my banishment skills, it was not an easy task. However, I had not the slightest intention of cutting corners. Thinking of Tia's face that day, my hand never trembled even if I had to strike 10,000 times. The best, the strongest, I just kept on hammering the mithril. Chapter 21, The Blacksmith's Song Shakes the Ears and the Old Man's Head Glows. The first half will be from Tia's point of view. The sound of thump, thump, thump echoed through the air. The strong, high-pitched sound made my ears clench at first, but now that they were used to it, it tickled my ears like joyful music. Strong, weak, high, low. Each one echoed through the world like the sound of a baby's birth, then quickly melted away. I enjoyed listening to the music with fascination. Clang, 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 it was a human boy, much younger than me, who played it single-mindedly. He fought evenly with the hero Alexis, had strange tools that even I have never seen or heard of, and he was now absorbed in blacksmithing. How in the world could someone who had lived only 20 years have such skill and tools? Mysterious, mysterious, very mysterious. No matter how much I stared at him, I could not stop being intrigued, and I kept staring at the boy. Ting, ting, ting. When the boy saw me for the first time, for some reason he suddenly started crying. When I first saw this boy, for some reason, I felt a sense of nostalgia that made my heart tight. I don't know, but I don't hate him. He always surprised me, amused me, and made me laugh. So just being with him like this warmed my heart. My heart was dancing to the sound of hammering. Clang, 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 I danced to it. My father back home once laughed at me and said, "Your ears are more eloquent than your mouth." but I found it useful in times like these. If I swayed gently to the sound, I could dance happily even while sitting down. Clang, clang, clang. I wonder how much this young boy would surprise me this time. Hiding my mouth, which was about to curl up, I waited patiently for the right moment. Clang, 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 like the sound of bells announcing happiness, as if to awaken a slumbering child. Tap, 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 come, child of steel. The mischievous child filled with Edokai's feelings would be unveiled soon. Section Fuwawu. I let out one deep breath and finally relaxed my shoulders. It was the morning of the 6th day in the workshop. I finally finished forging all my weapons. Since today was the last day I could rent this place, I could say that I was just in time. Are you done? Yeah, I am. I felt energy draining out of my body. I grinned and answered Tia's voice, who had been watching me the whole time. I mean, I didn't think you'd seriously be watching this all the time. What was so fun about it? It's hard to put into words what, but at least I wasn't bored, right? For me, it probably went by rather quickly. Yeah. Except for when I was eating and sleeping, the rest of the time I was just hammering away, you know. I really couldn't understand the sense of time of long-lived species that 6 days like that went by so fast. Maybe it was like spending the day just staring out the window on a rainy day. I think I understood a little bit of what she meant. So, Eid, what have you made? What do you mean? You've been watching me, so you know what I did, don't you? I only saw you, Eid. I didn't watch what you were making, okay? Because if I saw it, I wouldn't be surprised when I came face to face with the finished product. I could understand if you were watching the mithril change shape over time. But what was really fun about watching me, especially if nothing had changed? If it were the other way around and I was staring at Tia the whole time, I may never get tired of it. No, but Tia was a beautiful girl, and I was like an average brother around here, you know? I can't figure it out. Well, in that case, let's clean up here, and then we'll go to Alexis and the others. After that, we'll show them off. Wow, that's so exciting. I'll help you clean up. Oh. With the help of Tia's excited hands, we quickly put away my tools. After making sure the furnace was properly cooled down, I closed the door and returned the key and arrived at Alexis's room again. Well, his room was the biggest and best room every time, and that was all that mattered. Hey, Eid. Did you make it? Is that why you showed up at my doorstep? The best product is complete. I confidently noted to Alexis, who brushed back his fuzzy blonde hair. The first thing I did was to take out a pair of gauntlets with a dull, glossy color. First of all, this is for Gonzo, Sama. A gauntlet. It's a very unusual shape. Yeah. Isn't it useless as armor if your hands are exposed so much? Ha, you're right, Tia, but this is fine. I reassured her. While the gauntlets worn by old man Gons usually covered from the wrist to near the elbow, the hand was almost invisible, the fingers were completely bare, and the only metal part was the back of the hand. This didn't protect the fingers and disqualified it as an armor, but for old man Gons wearing this, it would be the best solution. Gonzo-sama's fist is much sturdier than a piece of metal, so we cannot expect mithril to be effective in reinforcing it. So this is an adjustment to maximize the power of his fist. Gonzo-sama, would you like to try it out and put some magic into it? Like this, When he poured magic power into the gauntlet according to my instructions, the dull-colored gauntlet glowed white, and his fist was enveloped in a pale light. The result was a combination of strength as an armament and strengthening by magic power by stretching pure mithril-like nerves through the well-forged steel. Incidentally, this would not work with ordinary mithril. In order to achieve the same effect, the ratio of mithril would have to be greatly increased, making it more of an ornament than a piece of armor, which would have made it difficult for him to use. My fists are glowing. Have my muscles finally reached the realm of glowing? I don't know that realm, but by efficiently converging the magic from the entire arm, you should be able to increase the power of your fist close to a double. Try it later. What? All right then, let's go give it a try. What? No, later. Before I could stop him, old man Gonzo burst out of the room. He had a really big smile on his face and his head was shining, so there was no point in chasing him. Don't worry about Gonzo. So Eid, that wasn't the end, was it? Alexis said. Oh yes, then this is the next one. I then took out a thin rapier in a dazzling white scabbard. The scabbard was a practical item, so there were no glittering decorations, but the beauty of the material alone made it a gem that was more eye-catching than any work of art. A thin sword. Surprisingly, I thought you would use a regular sword. What are you talking about? This is Tia's. Here. What? Tia was surprised for some reason, and I handed her the thin sword. However, Tia only stared at it in her hand and didn't pull it out. Ah, Tia? Well, can you pull it out for me? Ah, yes, of course. Well, excuse me. Tia unsheathed the thin sword without making even the slightest sound, even though it was not lubricated with oil. The blade has a quiet silver sheen, and Tia looked like a hero in a painting, if she hadn't left her mouth open so dumbly. Beautiful. Right, and of course, it ain't just a thin sword either. Try using some simple spirit magic. Why yes, wow. Perhaps she used chantless wind magic. The blade of the thin sword was enveloped in a pale green color, and the wind swirling around the blade was faintly visible. What? A lie. For such weak magic, I can see the wind properly. Hey, how's that? The overwhelming affinity with magic and the retention of magic power that resulted from the use of pure mithril as a material made it possible to use spirit magic, which fundamentally could only be used by flying, as if it were normal magic, to stay on the sword and use it for attacks. With a standard magic sword, you can only attack with the attribute it comes with. However, if you combine it with your spirit magic, you can attack with the attribute you need at that time. The sword itself is rather fragile, so be sure to have some kind of spirit magic, even if it is weak, in it before attacking. Also, don't forget to put on a magic enchantment that increases durability when you stop at a suitable town before using the sword in earnest. What? Even if I don't impart the enchantment of increased durability, it can still be used in this state. I designed it that way. As long as it is one of the known attributes, you can use it however you like. The combination with spirit magic was only a sword's ability, so it was a separate category from the enchantments to the sword itself. However, for this reason, the strength of the blade was quite low because it was built completely with mithril only. If it was to be used in actual battle, it would easily break or bend without either an increase in durability or the next best thing, an increase in sharpness. As I explained these things, Tia, who had finished listening to me, carefully put it into its sheath. Thank you, Eid. I'll take good care of this. Tia hugged the thin sword as if she were holding a baby, and I smiled back at her, with a sense of satisfaction that I had accomplished what I had set out to do. Chapter 22. When you get a new toy, isn't it rather obligatory to be excited about it? Okay, this is the last one. With that statement, I took out the last piece of armament from my bag via the stranger box. But when they saw it, their eyes widened in surprise. What's that? Surprised, Tia asked. A straight sword without a blade, or rather a mithril stick? Hey Eid, how does this work? Alexis asked. I was holding a shiny silver sword, at least shaped like one. It was a mere square stick in the shape of a sword, but as it was, it could only be used to strike like a club. I can't swing this around indoors, so why don't we join Gonzo-sama and try it out? Oh, that's good. I want to use my sword more properly too, Tia said. Fine. Gonz will find out about it soon enough anyway. Well, that's that then. We easily settled and left the inn and walked around town. We followed the commotion out of town and found old man Gonzo screaming and swinging his fist right next to the town wall. There he is. Hey Gonzo, Tia called out to him. Oh, it's you guys. What's going on? Foo-foo, Eid gave me a nice sword too, so I'm here to try it out. Oh yeah, hey kid, no Eid. This thing you gave me is really nice. It fits in my arm as if it were an extension of my own muscle. Haha, that's good to know. I knew it would be okay, because it was built specifically for the old man by combining several banishment skills. But it was still a relief to get his approval first. Eid, look, water puffs and pours, fire goes boom. Haha, yeah. And beside the old man, Tia was also excitedly wielding the rapier I gave her. It was a picturesque scene of training, where she was applying spirit magic of various attributes and checking the response and effects, but to me, it looked like a child having fun. Well, I'll give it a try too. Oh yes, how do you use that mithril stick? A mithril stick? No, it was not wrong though, but it was the only time they would call my sword that. Fufuff, watch me, come out my wings, silver-winged sword. I raised the mithril rod, or silver-winged sword, and shouted, and a silver feather grew on one side of the blade. At the same time, the other side of the sword sharply reduced in volume, eventually transforming itself into a single-edged straight sword with 6 feathers. "What is that? That's not fair. It's so cool," Tia exclaimed. "No, it's not unfair. It's definitely cool, though. This sword can grow any number of feathers on one side of the blade like this so that the angle of the blade on the other side can be adjusted," I said. If the sword had 6 or so pieces, it was about the size of an ordinary sword, and if it grew to its maximum of 12 pieces, it would become a very thin blade, not far from a sword of thin life. If it reached that level, it would be able to cut through most things with a single sword stroke. I know it's great, but why did you make it that way?" Tia asked. "The thinner the blade, the more fragile it becomes. If the blade chips every time you cut a small fish, it will be difficult to repair it. You could use a spare sword for everyday use, but since you made it, you want to use it for everyday use, don't you?" Alexis also questioned. "Certainly. It would be a shame not to use this sword that I have poured my heart and soul into. Especially since it was just made, I needed to use it on a daily basis to get used to it. Or I might not be able to use it to its full potential when the time comes. I want to use this sword right now, but not until the magic enchantment is done right. Unlike the one I gave to Gonzo-sama, your rapier is made entirely of mithril. If you use it before you enchant it with magic to increase its durability, it will break rather easily, don't you think? What was enhanced when silver became mithril was its affinity for magic. So even if the strength was slightly increased by the passage of magic power, its durability was not even close to that of iron. It won't be a problem if it was used to cut through soft flesh, but if she went crazy and hit a bone, she would cry and wail. Ugh, Eid, can't you do magic enchantments? I can't do it. I can't use magic. Ugh. Tia ran toward Alexis with a look on her face as if she had just been deprived of her favorite treat. Surely, she was probably going to ask him to introduce her to a highly respected enchanter. If there was still any reason not to enchant it at the appropriate store because she really wanted to use it right away, it should be fine to leave it alone. Well then, I guess I'll try a test cut too. After looking away with a wry smile at Tia's back as she ran towards Alexis, I took a fistful of coal from the stranger box and released it into the air. The coal rose about a meter higher than my head, and then gravity brought it down, and I cut it off with my silver-winged sword. Huff! There was a gurgling sound, and the coal shattered. It was cutting at least, but well, that was what a blade of normal thickness would do. I closely observed the blade in the area where it hit the coal, but there was no chipping of the blade. Good, then next time, 12. With the silver-winged sword in his hand, I activated Master Smith and sprouted a pair of wings on its back. Then the blade, thin to its limit, shined like a mirror, and with just the slightest pry of the finger, it seemed as if it would crack. Nice huff. The newly extracted coal was thrown into the air again and slashed in the same way. This time, however, a high, clear sound was heard, and the coal was completely cut in half without a single small piece spilling out. I picked it up and slid my finger across the cross-section, and it was smooth as if it had been carefully polished by a skilled craftsman. All right, this will cut at least steel. The important thing is that the blade is, I knew it would be like this. As a compensation for the tremendous sharpness of the blade was so chipped that it could be seen at a glance, or rather broken off. This was no longer about the swordsmanship, but the strength limit of the material, so there was nothing that could be done about it. But that was to be expected. If all the feathers were recovered and returned to the mithril rod, and then the feathers appeared again, a beautiful blade without any chipping would be restored. The amount of mithril consumed is also in line with calculations, so even at its thinnest, it should be usable for about 10,000 times. It's not bad for a makeshift. Hi. Alexis, who had been coming this way before I knew it, heard my muttering and let out a small voice. He picked up the piece of coal that had fallen at his feet and narrowed his sharp eyes slightly as he looked at the cross-section of the coal. It's a brilliant cut. I didn't realize that you, who have a sword skill that rivals mine, are also such a good blacksmith. How many cards do you have hidden in your hand? Haha, I'm not that great of a. Eid, I'm a hero. The quiet, yet forceful tone of his voice left me momentarily at a loss for words. that was something I've never been able to achieve in the end, because I just kept on being banished and never made it to the end. My eyes are not blind, you know? If you can make even a sword this good in time, what kind of perfect sword are you aiming for? Ah, yes, that's right. A sword that can cut anything. Anyone can just say it, but it's a tremendous goal that I don't see coming to be realized. But you made it happen, didn't you? Why do you think so? Didn't you say it yourself? A sword that boasts such sharpness was just makeshift. If that's the case, if you call it a prototype, or even a makeshift, you have already made a better sword than the one I have, haven't you? You couldn't complete it this time around because you didn't have enough time or materials. Is that the reason? Either, I suppose, because neither can be bought with money. Some of the materials needed to build the sword of thin life were not available in this world. It would take a lot of time to make that hilt. I already knew how to make it, but for that reason, I also understood that there was no way to make it in this world. Well, hey, Eid, I have something to talk to you about. Can you come to my room tonight by yourself? Is there something you want to tell me? I have something I want to tell you, and you alone. Come visit me when everyone else has gone to bed. I'll be waiting. Why, yes. He said this with a troubled look on his face, which was unusual for the always aloof Alexis. Alexis walked away without waiting for my answer. I didn't want him to look at me like that. I don't have a hobby for that. I couldn't even joke about such things. What the hell? My mumbling, my head full of question marks, melted away in the wind and into the world without being heard by anyone. Chapter 23. I thought it was not for sale, but it was the most powerful equipment sold in the store. Come in. It was after midnight, when everyone had gone to bed. Knocking on the door with a lantern in my hand, I heard Alexis' voice coming from the other side. I asked permission and went inside to find Alexis in the dimly lit room, who was, for some reason, well armed. Excuse me. For a brief moment, I thought to myself, oh, what have I done? But it soon disappeared. Even if I was going to give a rude person a beating, I would not go out of my way to invite him to my room in the middle of the night. But then, why was he fully armed? I understand your confusion, but first calm down. It's not like I'm going to do anything to you. So, what do you want from me? The thing is this. With these words, Alexis held out the holy sword, the weapon of a hero who always carried it close to him. Would you mind picking it up and taking a good look at it? Are you sure? I received the holy sword from Alexis and pulled it out of its sheath. I had seen him fighting with it countless times, but this was the first time I touched it, as Alexis was extremely averse to anyone but himself touching the holy sword. Ho, is this the holy sword that was said to have been made by God? Why, yeah, I think it's a very good sword, like a quintessential holy sword. A good sword, huh? That's exactly right. Then let's change the way I ask. Eid, is that a great sword in your opinion? The holy sword I actually held was indeed a great sword. It was made of steel, mithril, adamant, and other metals used for different purposes, and I would guess that it would take much more work just to hammer one of these swords than to hammer 100 ordinary swords. It was the pinnacle of craftsmanship. It was the fruit of skill and passion, no less than the sword of thin life that I had created in the past. However, I knew you could tell. Yes, it is undoubtedly a great sword, but it is not a holy sword. It is the ultimate sword made by human hands, but it is not a miraculous sword created by God. Alexis smiled faintly as he said this, and I too was at a loss for words. I didn't think that the sword Alexis was holding was not a holy sword. Does that mean that Alexis didn't have the holy sword during the first time too? So where is the real holy sword? At least for me, I don't know. But it is a problem that I am a hero, and I don't have the holy sword. I had no choice but to use that sword, pretending that it was the holy sword for a long time. Hey Eid, the weapons you built for all of us were truly amazing. So I thought to myself, if you could make a better sword than this one. It could be done with time and materials, though. While the fake holy sword was extremely well made, this was only a general-purpose straight sword. If I fully used my banishment skills to create a weapon that suited Alexis, I could create a sword stronger than this. I see, then. Hearing my words, Alexis kneeled down on one knee on the spot. I was astonished that the noble Alexis would do such a thing, and he lowered his head even further. Please, Eid, for my sake, For me to be a hero, will you hammer a sword like yours for me? No, 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 no. Oh no, please stop. You're not like that, are you? My defeat is the defeat of mankind. Therefore, I must always be the strongest and the best. I must always be above everyone and cut down every obstacle that pours down on me with my own hands. I would do anything to live up to that great role. But, Eid, you know what I'm talking about. You are younger than I am, yet you have acquired such skill with swords and blacksmithing, and you know the duties of those who are loved and empowered by God. I am special. I can have anything I want. If I want, I can make anything come true. That is why I must achieve the peace that everyone wants from me and the future full of hope that everyone desires. In order to continue to be the ideal hero for everyone, I must. When Alexis said no more, he even bent his knees and pressed his head against the floor. Please, make me a true hero. I was left speechless when he got down on his knees. This time, however, it was not because I was surprised, but because I was stunned by my own immaturity. In the first round, Alexis was nothing but a prince and a hero, no matter how far he went. He looked down on everyone but himself and acted like a hero chosen by God. That was my impression of Alexis. That would certainly be true, but he was never just that. He was a man who was aware that he was special and made every effort to be worthy of being special. When you think about it, it was only natural. Someone who was just getting stronger and better with his power would never throw away his own life at the last minute to save his friends. The first man I met on my journey to the otherworldly exile was not a hero because he was chosen by God, but because he was so truly a hero that God had no choice but to choose him. I'm sorry, I can't accept that request. My sword is not fit for a hero. Gosh, isn't that just a bit too much arrogance? At my words, Alexis looked up and stared at me with a bitter expression on his face. But I respond to his angry gaze with a smirk. Oops, don't get me wrong. I mean that there is a much more appropriate sword for a hero to use than the one I used. Show yourself, Akashic Compass. In response to my call, a cross-shaped metal frame, about twice the size of a clenched fist, appeared over my hand. Yes, the sword I made was not enough for Alexis the hero. Because it was, wasn't it? Of course, a sword created by God himself was greater than a sword forged by a human being who had been given the power of God. What I am looking for is the real holy sword. Where is it? At this question, a white haze sprang up in the metal frame. A sword I had never seen before appeared on the screen, and as soon as it disappeared, a red compass pointed in the right direction. Eid, wasn't that just to locate the magical beasts? No way, no one knows the location of the real holy sword. Don't tell anyone, okay? The ability to know the whereabouts of any object was too valuable to be used along with auto mapping. So I wanted to keep it to just locating the location of a magic beast I know. But this one time, it was special. Because I was stronger, Alexis revealed his true feelings that he couldn't speak to a mere porter. Then it would not be manly not to respond. Also, if I get the real holy sword, Alexis would definitely be stronger than he was right now, and that future would be a lot further away. So, my hero, do you need the best swordsman, the best porter, the best blacksmith, and a fortune teller with a 100% accuracy rate? I'll take any job now for a very reasonable price, okay. HMPH, all right. The reward for me is to defeat the Demon King and save the world. I will give you the honor of fighting with me. Fufu, that's quite an exorbitant reward. Then again, I grabbed Alexis' arm, who had been sitting on the floor for a long time, and made him stand up. This time, I bowed to him reverently. I will lead you to victory. I look forward to working with you, my hero friend. Alexis, what? You said you would do me the honor of fighting with me. I won't allow a mere porter to call me by name, but if we were to be friends in arms. Take care, Eid. I'm on it, Alexis. I clasped back his hand firmly. On this day, Alexis finally recognized me as a true friend. Chapter 24. Faster is more favorable than slower, but too fast and you won't even get an affectionate smile. With the new goal of acquiring the true holy sword, we immediately began to move. However, since I knew the location of the holy sword with my Akashic compass, all we had to do was to go in the direction indicated by the compass. 2 weeks had passed since we left the town of Adoramtine. We saw a holy sword standing on the ground in front of us. Wow, it's really stuck in the stone. Amazing, I exclaimed. After passing through a deep, foggy forest, in the center of the open space that emerged, there was a stone protruded like a pedestal. Then, there was a sword that seemed to be a holy sword stuck in it. It didn't show a trace of rust, even though it had been exposed to the wind and rain. I mean, how could it be in a place like this, and we haven't found it until now? I didn't see any reaction in my body either, Alexis asked. I don't know about that, but the whole forest was under a spell of deception, Tia said. What? On the contrary, wouldn't that stand out? I asked her. It was like shouting out that something was going on, that the whole area was covered with illusion-type magic, even though it was just an ordinary forest at first glance. I couldn't think of a reason why no one would check out such a place, but Tia answered my question with a grin. Yes, it's very noticeable. However, when the magic of the forest was broken, another magic would be triggered. This time on some of the trees. Also, it seemed that it was leading those who thought they had broken through the illusion to a lake that looked like it might have something. See, we just passed it, didn't we? Ahem. Oh yeah. Tia's words reminded me of a lake we passed by on the way here. A perfect circular lake filled with clear water with not even a single fallen leaf, in spite of being in the middle of a forest. It was obviously suspicious, but my Akashic compass told me that there was no holy sword there, so we passed by without examining it. If you see something like that at the end of the lost forest, anyone would think there's some secret there, right? In fact, it seemed to be filled with the power of spirits, so I think the water had a special power. I think if you made a recovery potion out of it, it would be highly effective. But I think the power of the spirits interfered with it and made it impossible to get to this place. If you hadn't led me here and I didn't know there was more to it, I probably wouldn't have noticed it either. I see. After getting past the first illusion, there are rewards that are well worth it. But if you get it, you'll never get to the real deep end. That's a trick, I muttered. I don't know where was the one who set this up, but it was quite vicious. Or cunning. Not even allowing the hero to reach this place was a bit too much, though. Hey, Alexis, didn't you know anything? There is a pure spring hidden deep in the forest. In its innermost depths lies the power of the hero in eternal slumber. There is, then go look for it, I said, shocked. I looked for it at the bottom of the lake, and this is what I found. As I pouted, Alexis pulled out a jade pendant on a gold chain from around the neck of his armor and showed it to me. It has the power to heal the wounds of those who wear it. I've never been here myself, but the fact that the survey team brought this back to me completed the story. I had no idea that the real holy sword lay beyond that. Alexis giggled tiredly, and I was speechless as well. Well, yeah, I know. If we ourselves went through the difficulties, explored as the lore stated, and got such a nice treasure, we would be satisfied with that. Really, whoever thought of this was really malicious. Why were they even trying to trick the hero? Well, that's it. Stay strong. HMPH, I don't need you to tell me what to do. I patted his shoulder, but Alexis snorted and pushed it away. Pretending to be cheerful is fine. Eid, when did you really get so friendly with Alexis? Why so much all of a sudden? Fufufu Tia, time is of the essence in male friendship, right? I agree. You get naked, do muscle-to-muscle contact, and from that moment on you are muscle buddies. Did Eid and Alexis really do that? I don't think so. Don't be so cocky, old man. Gehalte. Muscle solves everything. After Alexis recognized me that day, I started having normal conversations with him. Then, the old man Gonzo heard this and said, "How can a man who speaks normally with Alexis speak politely only to me? My lonely muscles will cry." So, now I talked casually with all the members of the hero's party. But of course, muscles were not involved or touching each other. As someone whose body rewinded back in time, every time I returned to the white world, I had a longing for a well-trained body. But that was a different story. Anyway, quickly come here, Alexis, I urged Alexis. No, you're right. Hey, Eid, why don't you pull it out for me to try? What's me? I don't mind. At Alexis' suggestion, I grabbed the hilt of the holy sword that stood out against the stone and pulled it with all my might. But of course, the holy sword was unaffected, and the question was, do I actually have the aptitude to be a hero? Something like that won't happen. Furthermore, using the stranger box and other banishment skills, it seemed possible to just get it, if not pull it out, but I would not lose my manliness. No, though I would consider it if Alexis by any chance couldn't pull off the holy sword. I can't pull it out. I see. Then I'm next, Old Man Gonzo said. Oh, I want to try it too, Tia also chimed in. With Alexis a little relieved for some reason, Old Man Gonzo and Tia also tried to pull out the holy sword, but they both failed to pull it out. New, even my muscles can't pull it off. I'm sorry to hear that, but it's not surprising. Here, now it's Alexis' turn, I said while looking at Alexis. Oh. Alexis stood in front of the holy sword and put his hand on the hilt as Tia cheerfully gave up her place. Taking a deep breath, he then applied pressure on his hand and it moved, great at slipping out. Whoa, hang in there, Alexis. Go, do it, you can do it, Alexis. Oh, shut up, just shut up and watch me for a minute. Huo-ha. Slowly the holy sword was pulled out, little by little, and soon the tip of the sword left the stone. When Alexis raised the holy sword, which was finally revealed in all its glory, his body was suddenly enveloped in light. This power is overflowing in me. Hey, what's that floating around there? Surprised, I said, pointing to where Alexis was. Oh, it's true, Alexis is floating, Tia said. Is that what the muscles of the holy sword are capable of? To levitate in the air that even an eagle can't do. The muscles of the holy sword. I looked at Alexis, who was floating in the air, even if it was only a few centimeters, with a shiver in my heart at Old Man Gonzo's words that even inorganic objects require muscles. It was as if Alexis was wrapped in a cocoon of light, but the light was gradually absorbed into Alexis' body. And soon after all the light was taken in, Alexis' body fell to the ground with a thud. Hey, Alexis. You okay? I asked. Yeah, no problem. Saying this, Alexis swung the holy sword sideways toward a nearby tree. The trajectory of the sword became a shining blade, and about 3 trees as thick as an adult's torso were cut down together. Whoa, was that Moonscraper? No, I was not conscious of anything, I just swung the sword. I see, so this is the true power of the holy sword and of the hero. Alexis stared at the hand, holding the holy sword. His expression was filled with joy and exuberance that couldn't be hidden, was different from the usual Alexis, who looked like a child who had received a new toy. I will need to become proficient with this power for a while. As it is now, there's a chance that I might unintentionally hurt you guys. But once that's over. After saying that, Alexis broke off and turned his powerful gaze on us. Yash. We're going to get through the Demon Lord's domain and defeat the Demon King in one swoop. I know we can do it now, Alexis said. Oh, we're finally going, Tia exclaimed. With Eid here, surely we can make it now. Hey, don't you think so, Eid? Oh yeah. I smiled vaguely at the 3 of them, who were getting excited. Surely, with such strength, we could at least get out of the demon's territory. And there was no way an incident like in the first round would happen, because I was here. Yikes, if I missed this chance to get exiled, I won't ever get it again. This was a problem I couldn't share with anyone, and I was left to contemplate it inwardly. Chapter 25. The unbreakable ties that bind so tightly sometimes become heavy shackles. Alexis left. No problem, full moon scraper. While cutting down the demonic beast in front of me, Alexis, nodding at my warning that I raised just in case, unleashed a technique with the power of the holy sword. The technique, which used to send out slashes like a crescent moon, now fired out a round, shining white and silver light bullets that blasted away anything in their line of fire, whether it was a tree or a demonic beast. I knew it would be awesome, though the real holy sword is clearly not as easy to use, Alexis said. Well, I can't deny that, but hey, there's nothing wrong with it. Right? I replied. Right. We were engaged in a fierce battle in a vast forest called the Demon Border, which separated the realm of humans from that of the demon race. In the human world, wielding a sword like this would cause too much damage to the surrounding environment. However, in a place like this, it did not matter how much damage was done, because the dense magic power that it accumulated would return it to its original state within a few days. The reason why the holy sword was sealed was because it was absolutely too powerful. That's not a good thing to have as your first weapon. I know that getting a great weapon was a part of the hero's strength, but I also understand that if a person was suddenly given a power too strong for his/her stature, he/she would grow distorted by it. I thought it was a mysterious act by someone malicious, but they were completely right to limit the ability to handle this power to only those who had developed enough competence and thoughtfulness to break through that magic riddle. Eid. Alexis. I'm done here. Gaha, I'm 100 years too early to let a little fish like this block my muscles. Oh, I see. Well, let's take a little break, I said. Tia and Gonzo, who had just finished defeating the remaining monsters, arrived, and I took the camping equipment from the stranger box and laid it out in a suitable manner. Thanks to the magic tool I bought before, we could produce water as much as I wanted, and we had plenty of food to eat. It had already been about a week since we entered the demonic forest, but there was still more to go, and we needed to save as much as we could. It's been 6 months now. Although it was impossible to make a fire, a magic tool would be enough to generate heat. Alexis, sipping his after-dinner tea, suddenly muttered, "If I hadn't met you 6 months ago, I wonder where we would be now and what we would be doing." Alexis continued, Well, it's just a guess on my part, but I'm guessing you'll probably be around Toruta by now, killing pirates," I said. Toruta? Oh, come to think of it, I did hear something about pirates running amok in that area not too long ago. As usual, you're a man with detailed information. Well. Alexis chuckled, to which I replied with another vague smile. That was because I remembered most of what I did in the first round. Well, now that things have changed so drastically, I really only know about the past, or is it the future? It only served to make me nostalgic. 6 months, 6 months. I wonder. It feels like Eid and I have been together much longer than that, and yet it's only been 6 months. Tia said. Gaheha, sometimes a day spent together is more memorable than 10 years of just passing each other. The length of time is of no importance, unless it is as dense as my muscles. Old man Gons also chimed in. It sounds like he's probably trying to say something nice, but I just can't accept it honestly because of his muscles. I replied, "What did you say? Muscles are great." The old man is still the same. "Look, Tia, the meat here is cooked nicely." Yay. Old man Gonzo, as usual, and Tia was smiling and they were chomping on the meat. I looked at them and they looked at me. Their eyes were filled with deep trust, not the kind of look you would give to a mere porter. It was a warm and honorable feeling, but it was also what worried me at the moment. Seriously, what am I going to do? In order for me to leave this world, I must be recognized as a member and be expelled from the hero's party. Since we have been working together for 6 months, I have already achieved the condition of being recognized as a member of the party. But to be honest, the condition of being expelled from the party was much harder to achieve because they trust me too much. First of all, I rejected any attempt to betray them out of my head. If I was going to do that, I wouldn't have done the second round in the first place. On the other hand, it was also difficult to cut corners on work so as to be expelled. To be trusted deeply means that even if I cut corners, it won't be because I was slacking off, but would be something is going on or you are not feeling well. And they would be more concerned. Should I try to peek at Tia while she's changing clothes like I did before? No, but that was just an act of concern for me, so I'm sure they won't kick me out if I happen to peek now. If I persistently peek around while saying Jage, I would get kicked out someday, but that was too roundabout and too disgusting. Also, I could put up with them being angry or disliked, but if Tia really cried, I would be hurt beyond recovery, so it was not good for me because it would hurt me in a way I could never recover from. I guess I'll just have to lose one of my legs, then, won't I? If I were to lose a leg, I would not be able to continue my journey. We have prepared transfer crystals for the return trip for us, so I would probably be sent back with it. However, it was also difficult to intentionally injure myself to the point of losing my leg. Ideally, if I were aware of the enemy, let it catch us by surprise and lose my leg in the process of protecting someone else, but there was no way that such a convenient situation would be available to me anytime soon. It's not good to be acknowledged too much, somehow. Hey, Eid. What is it? As I was lost in thought, Tia suddenly spoke to me. I turned my head to look at her, and her round jade eyes were staring at me. You've been thinking about something for over a month now, haven't you? Isn't it about time you talked to me about it? What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. Tia hit the nail on the head, but I still played it dumb, and she sounded displeased with me. Well, okay, but am I really that unreliable? I don't know what you're talking about, but that's not true. I patted Tia on the head, and her cheeks puffed out in response. Munot sign, you're treating me like a child again. I'm about 80 years older than you. Haha, I see. In terms of mental age, I'm a little over 120 years old, you know? A girl 20 years younger than me should be a child, don't you think? You are so cute. Do you want some candy? I don't want it. HMPH eats mean. I smiled a little sadly inwardly at Tia, who turned away, revealing her anger with a pout. Thanks, Tia. No matter how things turned out from here, the time to say goodbye was near. As long I didn't know what would happen after we defeated the Demon King, and if the heroes' party disbanded, I must be expelled before that time no matter what. So no matter how long we've been together up to this point, we'd probably only be together for another 2 months or so. I would have to repeat such farewells 100 times from now on. I didn't know if I would be allowed to come back here afterwards to see the ending again, but there won't be at least a third round. Then, this time, I want to say goodbye with no regrets and have a sorrow-free ending. For that, I must do what I can do now to the best of my ability. Well, for the time being, let's think about it after we get out of the demonic forest. I don't know what's beyond that, and maybe there's something that will get me exiled easily. I muttered to myself inwardly, as if to say to myself, wouldn't it be better to bury my bones in this world? I crushed that idea quickly. And if I devoted myself to the battle to forget it, we would finally succeed in becoming the first human beings to go past the demonic border. This is. Oh no, why? Haha, so this is what happens in the end. Before us stood an army filling the land. Chapter 26. Those who succeeded, those who departed, shall they never coexist? Third-person perspective. Fufufu, welcome, my hero and their friends. We have been waiting for you. A large number of the Demon King's army was deployed to surround the hero's party as they emerged from the demon's border. A large, lanky demon warrior in shiny jet-black armor stepped forward and elegantly called out to the heroes. Alexis, the hero, responded to the words of the man while holding up his holy sword. This is quite a generous welcome. How on earth did you know we were coming? Ha, a funny joke. Do you really think, after all that violence you caused in the demonic forest, we would have not noticed your presence? Well, that's true. The fighting ability and strength of the heroes had improved dramatically thanks to Alexis acquiring the true holy sword and weapons crafted by Eid. But their growth was not in the direction that could deceive the eyes of demons that lurked the demonic world. There was no way to get through the demonic forest without a fight, so it was only natural that their presence would be detected. Alexis knew this. He wanted the time that was being created by this conversation, and Eid, who had been staring at him, realized exactly what Alexis wanted and took the transfer crystal out of the stranger box and held it in his hand. All that was left to do was to shatter it, and all of them would teleport away from this place. The demon detected Eid's movement and twisted his mouth in amusement. I'm telling you, you can't use the transfer crystals. We didn't want you to come all the way here and run back without even crossing swords with us. I had to make a few adjustments. We are not going to run away. It's just that the Demon Lord's army, which is supposed to be heroic, has outnumbered us by so much. How afraid are you of me? If you're this afraid, why don't you just shiver and hide behind your Demon Lord, or whatever he is called? To be precise, their means of escape was blocked, but there was no obligation to tell them the truth. He was not obliged to tell them the truth. Alexis continued to provoke him, hoping to create even the slightest opening, while his whole body was full-powered. If their escape route was blocked, the only thing left to do is to defeat the enemy with all their might. Because they had been deprived to escape from here, they could only concentrate their strength to fight. Behind Mao-sama, this is amusing. If I were to hide behind him, I would be easily extinguished by the black flames. I cannot let such a shameful act happen, so I'll take your heads here. Everybody, get ready. Wait, Alexis. Just as they were about to begin the deadly battle, a voice suddenly stopped Alexis. The owner of the voice leapt in front of the heroes and turned his back on them as if he were standing in their way. Eid, what are you doing? Alexis, what is your purpose? Eid asked. What's with you all of a sudden? That's getting through here with everyone's strength. No, that's not it. A hero's purpose is to defeat the Demon Lord. Then, we shouldn't be wasting our strength on a bunch of small fries in a place like this. Do you have any ideas? Alexis asked. Of course. From now on, I'll use my trump card and make a hole in that army and create an opening for you. Then you, the hero's party, run through it in a straight line. What are you talking about, Eid? What about you? Tia, with a look of deep confusion on her face, asked about the content of the plan that suddenly came out of her friend's mouth, which could hardly be called a strategy. Nevertheless, the response that she received was not at all appropriate. Me? Well, I'll follow after I get these guys out of the way. Lies, you cannot fool me with such a lie. Eid, are you going to be the bait here? Isn't that the job of the elder me? Old man Gonzo said. Don't be silly. Old man's defense and recovery magic will be absolutely necessary in the future. Tia's spirit magic, which can respond flexibly to any situation, is also necessary. I mean, isn't that how the original hero's party was formed in the first place? Then, it's logical that even a kid would know that I'm the right person to be bait here. No, that's not true. Eid is one of us. Why are you saying that now? Despite Tia's cries, Eid never looked back. He then removed the bag from his waist and tossed it to Alexis with his back turned to him. It's packed with the finest potions. Sorry, it's out of my control now, so what you see is what you get. Use it wisely. Well, if it's you, Alexis, I don't need to tell you that. Eid's your... Alexis, no, Yuasha-sama, I am sorry, but I would like to end my contract as your porter. Therefore, would you be so kind as to formally expel me from the hero's party? Don't be silly. Do you really think I would do such a thing? Please, otherwise Tia won't be understand right. Eid, who had been looking forward all along, looked back for the first time at that moment. Seeing the bitter smile on his face, Alexis clenched his fist so hard that it started bleeding. No, don't. Alexis, please, no. Gonzo, put Tia on your shoulder. We don't want her to get out of control. Are you sure? Yeah. What's wrong? Hey, let go of me, put me down. At Alexis' command, Gonzo lifted Tia's body up. Tia resisted with her hands, but there was no way that Tia could escape from Gonzo with pure muscle power. Eid. No, no, no. From the hero's party. Stop it. Please, please, please. I expel you. Thanks. The next moment, Eid's skin turned reddish-black and a red mist covered his body. The smell of iron rust began to waft in the air around them. Alexis and Gonzo frowned at this more than ever, and Tia spilled large tears from her wide-open eyes. Goo-woo-woo. With a roar, Eid's figure disappeared. At the same time, a red flash ran through the Demon Lord's army, and a path colored with blood opened up in front of Alexis and others. Let's go. OOOH. NOOO. EDDDDs. While the Demon King's army stopped moving in confusion, Alexis and his party ran along the path single-mindedly. Halfway through the path, the surrounding Demon King's army came to their senses and attacked, but they were all knocked away by a blow from the Holy Sword, and they just kept running forward as fast as they could. Heat was power. It was common knowledge that extremely powerful physical enhancements would result in a corresponding increase in body temperature. However, there was no way that a person's body could be safe from such a high temperature that his or her blood would boil and vaporize. Risking his life, he exerted more than his full strength for a short period of time. They all understood at a glance that it was that kind of tactic that Eid took, being the bravest and strongest out of all. I also. Again, someone important to me sacrificed their life to protect me and saved my life. Memories that should not be there made Tia's soul scream, and tears continued to fall from her eyes. Damn, we're so close to breaking through. It can't be helped. I'll take this. Put me down, it's all right now. A minute was shorter than the blink of an eye in a life of more than 100 years, but longer than an eternity in the midst of enemy lines. Tia, who had spent that much time in grief, got off Gonzo's shoulders and stood bravely, not even wiping her eyes. The tower of the half-moon that rises to convey the overlapping winds, and the voice of the spirit of the four elements that gather the light of the and turn it around. Turn around and blow it away. In the name of Lunarisha, manifest Stormbringer. A huge tornado materialized in front of Tia as she finished her chanting. However, Tia did not shoot it at the enemy, but cut it open with the thin silver sword entrusted to her by Eid. Dwell, sword of the silver spirit. A green light appeared on the blade of the sword that cut through the magic, and a smaller tornado covered the area around it. The moment Tia swung it sideways, The unfurled tornado swept away the army that had been standing in a fan formation. I really want to go back to Eid right now. I would even be willing to fight shoulder to shoulder and die for it. But I can't do that. If I trample on the wishes of my friends who risked their lives for me, I will continue to regret it for the hundreds of years of my life that will follow until my death. Therefore, Tia, who had let out all her regrets in tears, bit her lip so hard that it bled and uttered, "Let's go, Alexis. We have to go and defeat the demon lord." "Yeah, right. Gahaha. Both of you go wild to your heart's content. Since we left our back to that guy, I will stop everything that comes from the front with my muscles." With renewed determination, the heroes' party, now back to 3, ran towards the demon lord's castle. Even though demon lord's army had over 10,000 troops, there was not even a single one chasing after them. Chapter 27. The truly strong will laugh in solitude, and the soldiers will disappear. Conditions met. 10 minutes until your return. Thank you. I told Alexis that I was really grateful to him for banishing me from the heroes' party. Yes, I was grateful. At first glance, it was a desperate predicament, but that was why I was able to get myself expelled in a very natural way. The result was many times better than betraying them or anything like that, and because I was banished, I could use my Wild Joker's card to cut through the Demon Lord's army. Activate Blood Engine. The moment I activated the banishment skill in my head, my heart leaped with a thump. The accelerated heartbeat pumped blood throughout my body at such a rate that it burned through my veins. At that moment, all my abilities were raised 100-fold. Yes, 100 times, if that ridiculous multiplier a child were to use. Hermes dash. With a yell, I plunged straight into the Demon Lord's army. Even if it was a mere high-speed movement skill. If its strength was increased by 100 times, it would become a killing blow that could turn everything it touched into minced meat. I ran through the Demon Lord's army and moved sideways so as to not hurt Alexis and the others who were coming this way, and then returned to my original position while plowing through Demon Lord's army again with the Hermes dash. Then there I saw the important-looking demon man from earlier flying and giving instructions to his subordinates. "Ha ha, W, what are you all doing? Chase after the hero. I ain't gonna let you." Gyuha. The demon warrior rolled on the ground, his heavy armor rattling as he was hit in the back of the head by my flying kick. He hit a tree and stopped moving. Yosh, this person was a little unconcerning. "Come on, I need my refill. You guys will have to put up with the Grim Reaper's tailbone chasing after you," I said. This time, instead of using the Hermes dash, I jumped into the Demon Lord's army. Even with my normal speed, if they were to collide with me, they would be blown away, but that won't be enough. Aura, 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 aura. I swung the fake silver-winged sword I created using copy and fake with all my might. The reason I didn't use the real one was that if I were to use it with my current strength, the mithril club would snap even without any feathers. The strength of the real silver-winged sword was moderately good. However, besides being a fake, it was even more fragile than the real one. However, if I continued producing fake ones after each swing, there would be no problems in killing the Demon Lord's army. Keep knocking them down and knocking them down and knocking them down. Was not as efficient as I thought. If I couldn't beat them then, blood sword ha. I used my fake silver-winged sword to cut off my own right arm just below the elbow. The ever-increasing blood production turned into a column of blood, and obviously more blood flowed out of my body than my entire body if I could remold it with my skills. A 20-meter-long blood blade would be created on my right arm. Die, 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 all of you die, every last one of you die. A deadly typhoon with a diameter of 40 meters was blowing around my body. Everything it touches was ripped, smashed, blasted, and crushed, and what was life just a moment ago was being transformed into a pool of blood and flesh at a tremendous rate. Haha, okay, that's about it. 8 minutes passed as the dance of death continued. The Demon Lord's army, which had been alive and fighting for so long, had vanished, and a carpet of guts and blood was laid out on the reddened earth with no space in between them. Alexis and the others are gone now. Using the skills Akashic Compass and Auto Mapping, I confirmed that Alexis and the rest had left this place. I patted my chest with relief. The only reason I was in trouble was because I was being constantly attacked by an army of close to 10,000 troops, which was sapping my strength. Alexis and his team wouldn't have any problems dealing with a small number of them in a normal situation. I had taken care of any lingering worries, so the news of the successful defeat of the Demon Lord would spread around the world soon. Although I was disappointed that I won't be able to see it through to the end, there was nothing I could do about it. I have a little extra time. What shall I do? During the effect of the banishment skill Blood Engine, the effect of all banishment skills was enhanced, and my arm was already back to normal with the power of Regenerate, which had been multiplied by 100. It was the same with physical strength. So if I started running right now, it was not impossible to take a last glance at Alexis and the others, but, oh yeah, there's still you. The demon warrior, who had forgotten all about me because I had kicked him off to the demon's border, shook his head lightly and then looked at me. And stopped moving. Well, I get how you felt. You would never have imagined that all your subordinates would be wiped out and annihilated by a single person like me without killing anyone. What the hell are you? He asked. What you ask? Am I a porter? No, I have already been fired from that. In the end, who were you? Since you waited for us to finish talking before, why don't I at least hear you say your name? Me. I am the strongest in the Demon Lord's army. His knees gave a crackling sound as he spoke. His body, tormented by despair, had lost all will to fight. What is the strongest doing in such a hideous state? I am just a nameless soldier. But if you bastard were to die in exchange for my life, there would be no greater victory. What? So you can understand that after all? He said and continued. I don't know. Even though it's hidden by the spurt of blood, I can easily see that your body is not in an ordinary state. You send out the hero in exchange for your life. I will say that your determination is admirable. Oh, Mao-sama. I have succeeded in separating the greatest threat here from the hero, even though I let the hero pass through. For that achievement, please forgive me for my incompetency. The demon warrior then placed his sword to his neck and said, You have no more strength left in you. This is the sword that you made me wield. As an honor to a great warrior, I offer you this head. I'll go ahead and look forward to meeting you again. His hand flashed, and his head dropped to the ground. After watching him die, I suddenly realized where I was. I see I'm at. On the side of a waist-high rock, just past the magic circle. This was where Alexis and the rest died in the first round, and where I took care of Tia. I never thought my end would be here too. Fate, or was it divine irony? Either way, it was a great story. Right, let me just leave you with this. I took the real silver-winged sword from the stranger box and thrusted it into the ground. If I didn't leave any traces behind, Tia and the rest would be looking for me for decades. Even if the demon lord was defeated and the world became peaceful, I wouldn't want her to keep searching for me, who doesn't exist, because that would be futile. Good luck, Alexis. You should be able to beat the Demon King with ease. Old man Gonzo, too, be moderate with your muscles. I'm sure he won't listen to me even if I tell him. Ha ha ha. Soon I would disappear from this world. However, unlike the first round, I'd done all I could do here. The rest was up to Alexis and the rest who were still alive in this world, and it would be needless for me, an outsider, to worry about it. Which reminds me, in the end I made her cry this time too. Tia's face came to mind as we parted ways, and I couldn't help but chuckle. I wanted to bring back a smile to her face, so I challenged this world a second time, but to make her cry at the end. I guess I was still inexperienced. If by any chance I came back to this world after another 100 years, she would really be pissed off. With that rapier, there would be no need for her to resort to such forbidden magic that used her lifespan, and I would be able to see Tia again, matured for her age. Take care, Tia. Time passed, and my heart was beating loudly, telling me to pay the price for my power. But before my heart could burst at the end and pop off. 3, 2, 1 world transfer executed. My body became light and I was banished from this world. Chapter 28. Pride build up in the heart, consequence fall on the head. World transfer complete. I breathed a sigh of relief upon my safe return to the familiar white world. Upon checking myself, I found that not only was there no blood on my body, but the clothes themselves were different. On my waist, I wore the iron sword that was broken when I fought Alexis, and on top of my worn-out clothes, I wore a common leather armor, which was a bit worn out. Yes, as usual. I lightly moved my arms and legs and stuff to check the feeling, and they felt weak as usual. I was only there for half a year, but I was moving around a lot this time, so I had built some muscles and other things. Yes, my body restored back to normal as soon as I returned here. Not rejuvenated or returned, rather it gets restored to the state I was in when I first came here. The muscles developed during the adventures in other worlds would disappear, and so would the effects of any self-destructive skill used there. No, more like it was amazing that I could use a skill that would kill me, with virtually no risk at all. It was a bit of a waste that it could only be used as a last effort before leaving that world, but it was still more than enough to break any anxiety, like it did this time. Perhaps if I were to do the same without using Blood Engine, just how troublesome would it be? Yup, all hail brute force. Now then, let's learn the banishment skill I've been waiting for. It was foolish to think back on those I left behind regretfully, since I sent them off believing in them. I turned my attention to the crystal ball sitting on the table to change my mind. Then, the crystal ball glittered invitingly. Is this, by any chance, something promising? Since I inherited all the skills from the first round, I was honestly prepared for nothing. Is it a new banishment skill, or will it power up my existing skills? With great anticipation, I touched the crystal ball. But unlike in the past where power flowed into me instantly, this time I felt nothing. What oh? Rolling on the table, as if to mock my unintentionally teary eyes, was the same white, not white. Arg, why do you always drop it on my head every time? Are you harassing me? Are you harassing me? Rubbing my aching head, I picked up a brown leather-bound book. It was the first colored existence I had seen in this world, except for myself, yet at first glance, it looked like an ordinary book. What's this? Records of the Hero's Story. I opened the book, which was titled as such in gold foil, and looked down at the contents briefly. And as soon as I realized what the book was about, I read it with full concentration. Without missing a single word, I continued to turn the pages, losing track of time, as if I were engraving each and every word, and finally arrived at the final chapter. The contents: the first world records of the hero's story, last chapter, the 3 heroes and the apostle of God. Thus, after defeating the demon lord, the heroes made a triumphant return to the capital. But then Alexis, the hero, said, "We had our 4th companion. Without him, we would not have been able to defeat the demon king. He is the true hero and the hero who should be praised." In response to this, the king of Northland issued a worldwide appeal to discover the identity of the 4th hero. But for some reason, no information on his person was ever gathered. There was no trace of him anywhere until the moment he met the heroes, and his existence was indicated only by sightings of him during the 6 months he was a member of the heroes' party, and by the armaments that the heroes held in their hands. Finally, it was concluded that the 4th person was an apostle, a divine warrior sent by God to help the heroes save the world. So it was decided that he would be worshipped as the 3 heroes and the apostle of God. I see, that Alexis, did he properly defeat the demon lord? After reading everything, I slammed the book shut, closed my eyes and looked up to the sky. Behind my closed eyelids, I could see Alexis and the others fighting hard after I left, and I felt proud of their victory and a touch of sadness that I was not there to witness it. What the hell? I knew you could do it. I opened my eyes and my gaze turned toward the one door. Although it would never open and connect to the other world, my face naturally smiled at the thought of the peaceful world beyond. Well, it was a good result for a first try. Now, all I need to know is what Tia and the old man are up to. The book told the story of Alexis' journey from his departure to his triumphant return. But since it was written solely from the perspective of the hero, it did not delve much into Tia or old man Gonzo's perspective. It described how they worked as companions of Alexis, but it did not provide any other personal information or information about their personal activities. It says here that they made a safe and triumphant return, so they couldn't have been seriously injured or killed, right? If that were to be the case, then there should be some description of a big state funeral or something like that. There was no reason to fake his death, so Tyr in this cycle should not live in solitude. If that were the case, She would not be weak and limp from the magic that shaved her lifespan by half, and she would live a peaceful life. Impossible. If she was a member of the hero's party that defeated the demon lord, and moreover a beautiful unmarried young elf, the world would not remain silent. I could imagine Tia, fed up with the mountain of visits and offers of marriage, retreating to the countryside with her ears perked up. Oh, so it is true that karma comes back. I can't wait to see what happens 100 years from now. After completing another round, there was no guarantee that I would get that key again. Besides, at that point, it was possible that I would be more interested in the other world. Nevertheless, if I were to see her again, I would try my best to keep up with her whining. I'll have to prepare some nice souvenirs. Well, let's get going then. I stood up with the book in my hand and saw that a white bookshelf had appeared behind the table before I knew it. The records of the hero's story would fit perfectly in there, and with the way things were going, it looked like maybe all 100 books would fit in here. This was a very tempting collection. No, surely, I would keep getting these books as long as I keep being exiled from other worlds. See you. After patting the back of the book, I walked to the door of 2 with renewed energy. There was the door numbered 1 right next to it, but my mind was no longer stuck there. My friends, of whom I should be proud, accomplished what they had to do. Then it was my turn. In order to bring the remaining 99 worlds to a happy ending, I tightened my grip on the doorknob. Kaya. Woa. A massive weight, which I had never felt before, fell on my head. What? Is there a rule in this world that everything would appear above my head? Isn't that a bit harsh? Rather, what? It's really heavy, seriously, what is this? I tried to touch the top of my head, which was crushed, and just as I thought, I touched something soft. My head was slapped, and at the same time, I heard a familiar voice. A little later, the weight moved away from the top of my head, and when I finally raised myself up, I saw. In this world, where I was supposed to be the only one, there was a presence other than me that was more out of place than anything else. An elf with hair as yellow as the sun and jade-green eyes filled with curiosity stood before me, her long ears twitching. Tia, what the? Id. Before I could even say a word, Tia jumped on me. A tornado of question marks swirled above my head. Id, I got to see you. I finally got to see you. I smiled and hugged her, accepting her tears and snot as she pressed her face against my chest, crying and grimacing. Chapter 29. Thus, the 2 joined hands and took a new step forward. Are you settled now? Yeah. Tia, her eyes bright red and swollen, answered while wiping her face with a cloth. My leather armor got rather sticky, but I would call this one an honorable wound. I'm sorry for startling you. It's okay, I've done something similar. Similar, oh I see, when we first met. Yes, so now we're even. Yeah. Phew, I miss it. Tia finally smiled at me as I joked with her. I would love to just sit back and enjoy our reunion, but before I do, there was something I really wanted to ask her. So, Tia, how the heck did you get here? It's this. With these words, Tia took out a silver piece of metal with a dull shine from the bag tied to her waist. The shape of the metal looked vaguely familiar. Ah. Is that? Yes, the feathers of the silver-winged sword that you left behind with me. I was given one of the 6 feathers as a special gift. I was initially thinking about using it as a catalyst for exploration magic to locate the place where Ede died and bring your body back, if at all possible. But surprise, because the response I got was that Ede is alive, I instantly got busy from there. I knew you were alive, but I had no idea where you were. I thought I had searched the whole world, but there was no trace of Ede anywhere, and my search magic only showed that you were far, far away. So, as a last resort, I used forced transfer magic. Forced, then, you just fell on your ass on my head, ouch. Putia chopped my head with her cheeks puffed out. You can't talk like that to a lady. Moo. Foo, but I am glad I met you safely. I used a secret elvish art passed down to each generation, but it was a bit heavy on the consumption of mana. Secret art, that's a big. Tia's carefree laugh, and the meaning of her words permeated my brain after a moment's delay. Knowing what it was, the blood drained from my body, and I grabbed Tia's shoulders tightly and stared her straight in the face. How many years? How many years did you use? Ah, I see. I knew Ede would know about it. I knew it. What do you mean, I knew it, what? I questioned her with a fearful look on my face, but Tia quietly smiled back at me. Her eyes, which had a hint of melancholy in them, narrowed slightly, and her small mouth began to bloom with words like a bud unfurling. When I was on my way transferring here, no, more like it was only a moment to transfer here. But anyway, a memory of me that wasn't mine flooded into my brain. The memory of me kicking Eid out, Alexis helping me escape from the place where I said goodbye to Eid, surviving alone, and then reuniting with Eid, who took care of me at the end. I see. I knew that wasn't a dream. No, it's a dream. No such past exists. There's no such thing. Eid fufu, yeah, I know. Eid changed it so it doesn't exist. Gently, Tia wrapped her hands around my neck and hugged me. Her long ears tickled as they grazed my cheeks, and her hot breath lingered on my neck. I know Eid is always there for me, then and now. Thank you, Eid. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know, so don't worry about anything. I pulled Tia away and turned my back on her. It wasn't that I was embarrassed or anything. What Eid, by any chance, are you embarrassed? I am not embarrassed. I see. Here, look at me, Eid. I'm gonna pinch your cheeks, okay? Annoying, don't cling to me, you're annoying. Awa, Eid is so adorable. Shut up, and what are you going to do now? I asked Tia, restraining myself as much as I can from tugging on her ears and making her teary-eyed. Then Tia answered, looking around at the white world with a curious look on her face. Well, at first, I thought I would leave after thanking you, but this is a different world, right? So, Eid will visit more worlds, right? Yeah, that's true. Wait, you don't mean? I thought I'll go with Eid together. After all, it sounds fun. I told everyone close to me when I came here that I might not be coming home for a while, so I can do a little bit of an otherworldly adventure. All right, or rather, in the first place, can Tia even come with me to other worlds? What, I can't go? Well, we won't know that until we try. Naturally, I had never brought anyone into this world before, nor had I ever taken anyone out of it. Only God knew if it was possible or not, but I was afraid to test it out on the spot. If Tia was the only one left here, that was still fine, but if she was transported separately to a different place than me or even a different world than mine. There were too many possibilities of her transferring to a different world than mine, and no matter how much I want to, I won't be able to help her. We'll have to give it a try. Can't we just take the easy way out and try him? As I frowned, I suddenly saw the crystal ball that gave me skills. There was still a flicker of light in it, but it didn't show any reaction to me. You're lying, you don't mean? Hey Tia, can you touch that crystal ball for a second? Okay, wow, what's this? The moment Tia placed her hand on the crystal ball, the light scattered and absorbed into Tia's body. Perhaps this is what it was like, objectively speaking, when I learned the banishment skill. If that was the case, Tia would be picture perfect for this. I don't think it would suit me anyway. Hey, Eid. I felt something hot inside my body, and then I saw some strange word in my head. Letters. Something like that came to my mind. Oh, I see. So what are the contents? Contents, let's see. It's called Shake Hand. The effect is that you and the person you are holding hands can cross any world. How opportunistic. I had never seen such a terrible discovery in my life. I mean, this was definitely what I wanted. Then what is the meaning of this? Is this part of the great God's plan to look down from the heavens and enjoy the little human beings moving right and left? Hey, Eid, what is this? This means I can go to other worlds with Eid, right? Wow, so exciting. What would the other worlds be like? I would have sworn at the sky, but seeing Tia's innocent and excited face, I couldn't say anything. I never thought that I would have a companion on this journey, but well, if this was the price and reward for changing the end result, I was more than willing to accept it. Nevertheless, confirmation was important. It was really annoying when people later say, "I didn't hear you say that." I'm sorry, Tia. I'm sorry to interrupt your excitement, but we're not going out there to play, okay? We have to be a part of a heroic party in every world we go to, and we have to be banished from all of them, right? There will be things that will make you feel bad, and there will be dangers. I'll be fine because I'm with Eid. The two of us can overcome any danger together, and I won't be lonely if I get kicked out of the party. What's the foundation on which you trust me so much? Well, okay. I was strong enough to protect Tia alone. Together with Tia, we could be even stronger. There were many times when I wished I had a woman who knew what was going on, and it was reassuring to know that I was with someone I could trust and had my back to. Come on, let's go, Eid. What do you want me to do? Don't be in such a hurry. Well then, Ojo-sama, give me your hand. Take care of me. I respectfully bowed to her after reaching the door, and Tia happily held out her hand to me while puffing out her chest. I held her hand tightly, and we took the step into a new world together. End of Volume 1.